JB, pretty straightforward show, building up Double or Nothing tonight. We did have the main event of the Dynamite portion of the 3-hour show, and we're going live shortly after that portion ends, and we'll kind of keep an eye on Will Ospreay and Shibata right now and other things going on the show. But in the main event, Darby Allin, as expected, retained the title against Speedball Mike Bailey. I mean, that would have been more shocking than Brock Lesnar showing up if Speedball had won the title and they're reshuffling the pay-per-view lineup and abandoning the MJF Darby match that they've been building up for weeks and weeks now. But it was a good match, and I thought MJF on commentary was a good heel. That's what you do to get people to want to see you get beat. What'd you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the main event was what it needed to be, as you mentioned, kind of MJF on commentary. Acting juvenile, with the baby voice, and just seeming a little bit more kind of, worried as the match went along, is the tone I think he needed to strike. Setting up the idea that he's becoming more unhinged fits with the idea that he's under the amount of pressure that he's starting to feel as they come onto their rematch from on the last pay-per-view this Sunday. So you could definitely feel he's feeling it, and that's what the fans should be feeling after the main event tonight. So I think it worked. Like you said, it was pretty simple, but I don't think it needed to be any more complex than it was.
We'll find a way to do a post show, but I don't have super strong negative or positive feelings about the show. When I say positive, it was solid. There was newsworthy. There's things to talk about. But yeah, I don't come into this just being like, okay, here's the obvious talking point. But that is not a bad thing. There are times you just put on a wrestling show. I think if there's when you have the so-called go-home show right before a pay-per-view, you want people to be left wanting more. We could argue the downside is they gave away a lot of violence in 2 hours, and it's a 3-hour show, and maybe people kind of get a little satiated. But it is Sunday; it's days off. It's not like it's Friday night going into Saturday or anything. There was a lot of violence. They sort of gave away the stadium stampede. They gave away a decent number of things that we're going to see on Sunday, either style-wise or specifically those wrestlers against each other. I mean, that's the only negatives. Otherwise, I just thought they did a good job just emphasizing what the card is and having heels and faces talk about the stakes. I think they got, and we'll get into this more, the most you could possibly get out of Moxley and Kyle O'Reilly in terms of whatever there was to be gotten out of that match without doing some crazy, stupid hotshot angle. They did a good job there. But ultimately, yeah, this was about have Darby with a good promo, talk about why he's defending the title this often, have MJF be a brat at ringside, get excited that, Speedball's going to win. And of course, he's just trying to talk himself into it. Not that in canon you wouldn't believe Speedball has a chance, but in meta, he didn't. But MJF was seizing the opportunity. So, I just think I guess you can kind of do just big picture. I think the final Dynamite / Collision going into a pay-per-view shouldn't have some massive talking point that distracts from what they've been building up for weeks.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, sometimes some of these longer post shows are long because of kind of offensive things that companies do, which you don't want. That's that's the last thing on your list that you want on a go home show. But kind of touching on Darby's backstage promo that he did, a couple of things he said. So, it's the greatest feeling in the world to be world champion. And then also focusing on the vanity of MJF as a catalyst for the insistence that, for him to put his hair in the line, are two things that you want coming from baby faces. You want your baby face to be proud to be world champion, to be proud to represent the world championship. And you want your heel to be vain and to care about the wrong things. And that's his motivation for winning the title. And you don't want him to have the title because of that. So that's really 101. But the way Darby does come across as real, and I think oftentimes he actually is real. I feel like he's just talking for himself, and he's obviously gotten better over the years. But I think that was very well done.
It's the angle at the very end. It's fun to see MJF embracing being the heel that fans are laughing at. Not because he's funny and clever, but because his plan to go after Darby with the Clippers backfired. Darby got him, and then he had to scurry out of the ring. He's practically falling over himself, Bobby Heenan style, to get away from danger. But back when Bobby took bumps in the AWA era, not the WWF era. And so it's like seeing MJF's character mature into being a full-fledged heel, where I think he's self-editing a bit to not be too entertaining or clever, but it doesn't mean like there are a couple moments on commentary. Like he says, all bald people are disgusting, except you, Tess.
Yeah.
You're not disgusting. Like, oh, I got caught. Excalibur coming back from break said they're with the most insecure man in professional wrestling. And then MJF goes, says a man who always wears a mask, and then Excalibur said touche. I mean, he is quick on his feet. There's some, he's got good lines. Obviously, if you're booing him, you're doing it. If you're a fan watching this type of show, you're booing him because it's the right thing to do, because he's earned your boos. It would be disrespectful to cheer him because he's trying to get booed. So give him what he wants. If you're on a meta sense, respect him. But for the kind of more casual people, just get wrapped up in it. He's also doing everything right. He's funny, but maybe some people cheer him because he took a dig at Excalibur, but people are going to be like, oh, he almost got in trouble saying all bald people are disgusting. And then look at him cover his ass by saying not you, Taz. So he kind of has that old school heel vibe, heel sharpness to his decision making on what he says and doesn't say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like you said, he does have those lines sometimes, but he usually is able to bring it back to, okay, this is why you're a dick. This is why we shouldn't like you. And he also can have a corny nature, but I think it's sometimes intended, because if you're just the straight cool heel, that doesn't work. I mean, in my opinion, in today's, it shouldn't work in modern wrestling because that creates the ambiguity that we talk about quite often on these shows.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I appreciate, I think Darby's earnestness doesn't come across as cheesy. It comes across as real. So it's a good juxtaposition to MJF's character as well.
I can't say enough about Darby's promo. I mean, I will say enough. I won't go on and on, but I just thought it was good. I'm like he doesn't feel like he is at risk of being like too corny, but he says things that I think fans, and I hear from them, and analysts say a babyface can't get away with saying in the modern era. And Darby, because of what he does in the ring and the edge that he has, to how he wrestles, he can get away with it. I mean, he said being world champion is the greatest feeling in the world. And he'll do anything it takes to hold on to the championship. It was just straightforward. Like, Darby's just the guy who's representing the company, and he knows that it's short term. I mean, and he's accepting that. But to be a guy who just goes, I just don't know any other speed than the one that I'm going, it feels great to be world champ. And that's what you want, because you want there to be the agony of defeat when he loses. You want fans to be disappointed that MJF beat him because MJF won, but also because they know they like Darby and they admire how much, how he treats that title reign with reverence. And if it weren't Darby, there's a lot. If Speedball did the exact same promo, people would be rolling their eyes, going, "Oh, it's so schmaltzy. It's too whatever." It shows that if you have a cool factor like Darby does and a toughness, and the grit that he has, you can get away with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't work for everyone, like we said. The story wouldn't work for everyone. Actually, probably only works for Darby. But in my opinion, it does work for Darby, and I think it's actually a good side story on the road to All In, I guess you'd say, because it didn't take MJF out of focus. He's been in focus the entire time, but it's a different story to tell along the way with MJF, which I think keeps things interesting, but it still makes sense to storyline as we move forward into the summer. So, yeah.
I just overall, the Darby title reign, the apprehension that existed when it happened, how it happened, when it started, pretty much gone. I think people are going to talk about this, for years as just kind of a cool interlude.
Yeah.
And I like that. I think it breaks some of the monotony or the repetitiveness of, okay, when someone wins a title, it's an era, and it's an era that has to last months or it's a bust. Nobody's going to look at Darby's title reign as a bust because of how heavily concentrated it was.
Yeah, absolutely. And, people will have their gripes with the storyline, but the storyline is meant to be what it's supposed to be. And, I don't think every, title reign has to be epic. And I think Darby's a character that doesn't need to have an epic title reign. To say he has it is a good thing in his, portfolio, in his history. Mm-hmm. He's not the type of guy that would care about, the vanity of having a, 3-year title reign. He's going to enjoy it while he can. As Rich Fan, I think, said in the flagship, it's better to burn out than fade away. I think that would be his motto, is attached to this title reign. So,
yeah, for sure. All right, let's pause, introduce ourselves, and then we will talk about other things and introduce the chat. We've got Sean Plichta on hold as a caller, so we got a lot more to cover. Oh, and Brandon LeClaire, if he gets out of the building in time while we are still live streaming, PWTorch contributor, longtime host of Wrestling Night in America, will be joining us. He is in the building tonight, and will join us with an in-person perspective. All right, this is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show for Wednesday, May 20th, 2026. And I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, editor, publisher, and founder of the Pro Wrestling Torch weekly newsletter and the website pwtorch.com, host of the Wade Keller podcast and post shows. JB just mentioned the flagship. Rich Fan, PWTorch VIP analyst, joined me on the flagship yesterday for over an hour and a half and covered a wide array of topics, including a fun question in the mailbag of things that we would change in wrestling history that would perhaps change the course of wrestling history in a good way, our wish list. And Rich and I had a lot of fun with that. It was fun having a topic that wasn't just strictly a current event. So check that out. Search Wade Keller on your podcast app, especially if you're finding us on our YouTube channel. The Blue Logo Show is podcast only. It's not on camera, not on YouTube. So you got to subscribe. It's free. Just search Wade Keller. It includes a flagship, pay-per-view previews, interviews, flashbacks, and more. And then our red logo show that'll pop up when you search Wade Keller in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iOS, and Android apps. The red logo show is our post shows, but in audio format. And there's YouTube shows that I watch that I also subscribe to as a podcast, depending on the context. And we appreciate if you do that also, or you'll appreciate having both options too. So do that. If you're on the podcast side of things listening to us, which is most of you, feel free to join us live. I know it's not convenient for most people right after wrestling shows, or especially when one's still going on like tonight, to join us. But if it works out, you're invited to join us and join in the chat. Just search PWTorch on YouTube or click the link in my TV reports that I do live during Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And that'll take you right to the live stream. You can also find us on demand on our YouTube channel. But we're here to talk Dynamite tonight and also kind of keep an eye on Collision. And JB, Jerud, is from Detroit, is with me. JB, good to have you back as co-host. Welcome to the show.
Always a pleasure to be here, Wade. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm trying. Oh, yeah. So I was like, are we ready to move on? No, I got to mention the chat is live and active, and we're going to get to that. So if you're watching us live on YouTube, open that up and join in. If it works out better for you to email us, especially if you can't watch us live, wadekellerpostshow@gmail.com. Send your questions, comments, and rants or whatever to us, and we can read it on the air. And then you can also be a caller. The link to be a caller is in my aforementioned TV report on Dynamite. That link changes every show, every week. So go to PWTorch, the website, look up my TV report, and click on that link to be a caller. You can turn your camera off if you don't want to be on camera, or you can leave the camera on. Either way works for us. All right, so let's shift back to tonight's show. They opened with a lengthy segment taped earlier with the Young Bucks and Chris Jericho, and I think they wanted to cover a lot of territory, and they did, such as why are the Bucks teaming with Jericho when Jericho attacked their dad, and they brought that up sort of comedically. Jericho under his breath, the subliminal kind of under your breath thing said, "Sorry for attacking your dad, but he deserved it," and Nick was worked up about it, but by the end seemed to forgive him. And they also talked about how they were against each other in the first Stadium Stampede, and now they're together. They had never teamed together. They were in a 6-man tag at the beginning of the show. It's fun to see the Bucks actually do a full-fledged promo, and they played off of Jericho well, I think. JB, what did you think of that opening segment?
Yeah, no, I think it actually worked for what they were trying to do, as you mentioned, Wade. It was a fun skit, and that's what it was meant to be. They got their bits in, the two names, one team that they fit in there. And then, I think it was necessary, as you mentioned, to create a sense of actual cohesion amongst them and why they would actually be participating together. And I'm glad they checked that box, because they could have easily just ignored that and just completely, wouldn't have made sense, storyline wise. So, that's one less absent of irritants, as you would say. And then, I like the location as well, kind of being, offsite in Portland, Maine, as if they're actually hanging out together, as opposed to, backstage in some, dark alley, or, obviously clearly if they're in California with the Bucks or something, trying to make it look like they're actually, interacting together in an outside capacity, I think was good as well. So,
do you think Jericho's current persona, this latest incarnation or version of him, is starting to gain some traction?
I think it's fine. I don't find it offensive. I don't find it main card, nor it should be at this point. I don't think it's channel changing. I think I'm interested in Jericho, Ricochet. I find that, an appealing, feud that's been going on for a little bit now, a couple months. And then I obviously kind of connecting it, making it part of Stadium Stampede, which has been Jericho's bit for years in AEW now, I think works. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, who knows what they're paying him? Is he worth the money that they're paying him relative? I mean, I have no idea. I don't have insight into that. But I think where they've slotted him on the card works. And, I think he could have easily been rejected and just completely fell flat, even lower than he was before with the learning tree. But, I think he's rised above that point, which is I guess, is a positive. So
I think a lot of fans were very willing to reject him vociferously. And he has, I think, navigated that pretty well. And he seems to be, like, I talk about this periodically, joy of performance. Like, I think what people, when they, people in my position, they want to think I'm enjoying my job. I don't ever talk about, oh, I can't wait for the week. When I say I can't wait for the weekend, there are no weekends. It's wrestling events. Well, there are. Last weekend was a weekend, but often there aren't. Or I can't wait till I get a vacation, or I can't wait to, like, obviously those thoughts cross your mind sometimes. I mean, sometimes you're in the mood to read a book. Sometimes you're in the mood to go to a concert. Sometimes you're in the mood to talk about wrestling. Sometimes you're not. I just have to. But I never show that I don't want to, because this is a great job, and who wants to listen to someone complain about this job? That said, I feel that fans feel that way about wrestlers too. Some guys, and I feel bad sometimes when I think about giving wrestlers a hard time for screwing up on promos or screwing up in the ring, or at a house show, especially just kind of going through the motions when I look back, because it's like life can get in the way. You can be dealing with a sick dog at home and you're getting updates and you're worried. You can have a sick relative. You can be under the weather. You could be going through a breakup. Someone could have cheated on you, just found out about. Like, there's all these things that humans are going through. They can't show it. Like, I mean, and also just burnout. Sometimes you just, they go there. So my point in all that is, I think Jericho is showing a joy of performance right now. Like, he seems to be kind of having fun and appreciating that he has another chapter that might work out at age like 56 right now, where he can compete in the ring and look like he belongs. He did get himself in shape. I think he's proud of that. I think it's coming across, and that there's a humility, but also just wait, guys, I'm going to be better than last time to him. And it works out. And again, people don't want to watch somebody who doesn't seem to want to be there. And Jericho is sort of giving off the opposite vibe to me right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to give credit, guys, to a certain extent, because, I mean, he has reinvented himself to a certain extent again. I mean, dropping the Chris and just kind of being Jericho now, I mean, that's whatever. But the subliminal bit, I mean,
I'm ignoring that.
He's kind of
the Jericho.
Yeah, I think, and honestly, I don't think it's an edict, because you do hear the announcers calling him Chris Jericho still at times. But I think the subliminal bit, he somehow gets that over. It's the same with the list that got over huge, or you're gonna get it. The guy gets the stupidest stuff, but the list got super over. That became like an internet sensation for a period of time. But the guy always finds a way, and usually, I mean, it's like baseball. He's probably batting, 400. I mean, that's pretty darn good. That's a Hall of Fame career. It's elite all time. Yep. Jericho finds a way. And is he always going to be on the top? No, but is he always going to be relevant? I would say yes. So,
yep. What do you think about the Bucks at this time too, as baby faces, just kind of being back to the Young Bucks?
Yeah, well, you brought up joy performance. It feels like there has been a bit more joy performance with them lately. Especially particularly tonight, kind of interacting and joking around with Jericho, but kind of right when they went back to kind of being the I think they enjoyed being the heel Bucks as well. But when they came back to kind of being the original face Bucks, they really seemed to, really kind of been firing on all cylinders recently, as far as, enjoying what they're doing and it coming across and finding new bits, kind of similar to Jericho. They did the being the elite, which got them famous to a certain extent to a certain internet crowd. And, one could argue was a big part as to why AEW even began. And I think they're getting back to that a little bit. Like, even that skit to being tonight kind of feels like it falls into that, being the elite realm to a certain extent. Yeah. But, I like it too, because it's not irrelevant to what's going on in canon. So it still works. But yeah, I mean, I like what the Bucks are doing right now. Same. Are they at the top of the card? No. But what they're doing matters to the card. And, I mean, the Stadium Stampede is a big selling point. And they're part of that as well as Jericho. So I think it's working. And
I think there were times I think it was probably just post-COVID, where it did seem like they didn't want to be there. I mean, I think even in being elite, Matt complained about the travel. It's like, I mean, I know you guys paid your dues, so to speak, with long road trips, but you've got the money for first class seats on the best planes. You don't have to take you don't have to have layovers and connecting flights. I mean, they probably had to at times, but logistically, but they have the money to just buy the best flight available, and nobody who watched them on their journey wants them to get to the spot that everybody's proud of them getting to, and then watch them lament having to get on a long plane and travel across the country. Like, that's kind of goes into what I'm saying about, like, in any job that's kind of cool. Like, if you're working in the coal mine, complain. Go ahead. I mean, we are, if you're a server and you're on your feet all day, you're allowed to say, oh my God, I'm just on my feet all day and there's a bunch of rude people and whatever. But there's certain jobs where you just don't, and it's when it's a lot of money or it's not a lot of like crazy hard work physically or anything like that, or boring. So I'm happy to, but the reality is that's going to happen sometimes. And, I guess in this, social media, celebrity oversharing, or, abundantly sharing, I'll say, it's less judgmental, abundantly sharing everything about how they feel every day. You're going to get sometimes going, oh, we're at the airport again, I don't want to be there. But I think that did reflect the chapter that they had where, Nick just sometimes seemed out of it. Like he just looked checked out. Now they're not, and I think they're valuable in that way, but they're also not at the top of the card, being over pushed. I think they're just comfortable in their role. What was the phrase that they used? They said Jericho is another one of the founding fathers. Nice. Yeah. And I think they take pride in that, JB.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think MJF mentioned in an interview recently, AEW's weeded out a lot of the bad apples that, kind of brought morale down to a certain extent. And I think that probably had an effect, particularly obviously, as everyone knows, the main one is Punk, and I think during that time period, I think a lot of that, especially, people choosing sides and probably getting a lot of negative social media, backlash to a certain extent, both sides probably did, that probably brought them down a little bit. And obviously that's naturally, that's human nature that's going to happen. And it's a little bit of me, psychoanalyzing, but I think that definitely had an effect on how they felt. But I think they're back. I feel like the locker room is a good place to be right now, that they're proud to be part of it. They're proud they helped build that, and they want to show it, and they want to get others over in the process as well, which, typically with Stadium Stampede or Energy Arena has been about getting certain people over with a lot of the factions. So
when the Bucks and Jericho took on Mark Davis and Andrade with the Don Callis family and Ricochet, they wrestled 14 minutes. It's what you would expect from them. And then they brawled with everybody in the Stadium Stampede, or most everybody. I don't know if it's everybody or most everybody. There's a lot in the match. I think everybody in a post-match brawl. Did they give too much away, or is that not really a thing? Because Stadium Stampede is so all over the place, and obviously, they do a lot more than what we saw.
Honestly, I'm fine with it. To me, it's like kind of the go-home show to War Games, the go-home show to Royal Rumble. A lot of people are going to get their stuff in that. You could say just because as you say, Wade, sometimes you do a lot of bad things over and over again doesn't make it good. But in this case, I mean, that's, I think Stadium Stampede is going to be crazy. And I think this is probably like a level 4 on the scale of what they're probably going to try to do on Sunday night, particularly with it being the largest Stadium Stampede that they've ever done. And in that kind of unique, I think it's Louis Armstrong Stadium in New York, which is a bit of a unique setup. I think there's a lot of cool stuff that they can do. So I'm okay with it. It's a little bit formulaic. And there's some aspects like the Jack Perry with the bag of onions. I actually didn't really get that. Like, is that an inside joke that I missed, or why would you bring a bag of onions?
There's a chance it is, and there's also a chance it isn't. Yeah. I mean, so yeah, chat, help us out. Anybody, email us, help us out if you know if there's significance to the bag of onions. It's I don't know, who did he hit? Toa Leona?
Toa Leona, I think.
So maybe he just always asks for no onions on his burger, and it's an inside joke. I mean, it could just be as simple as that.
Well, yeah, so we had a bag of onions, we had stuffed chickens, cheese graters, staple guns, and fire extinguishers at one point or another on tonight's show. So they really didn't spare expense with introducing, inanimate objects into matches tonight. The Mark Briscoe with the chicken and the bag of onions. So it was a little zany, but like I said, overall, I think it worked for what it was. And I'm kind of intrigued to see Stadium Stampede and see what kind of feuds come out of that, because I do think there's some potential in setting up the rest of the summer in that match as well. Yeah.
Yep. Before I brought up bag of onions, I had something I was going to say, and now I'm just thinking about the bag of onions. No big deal there. All right, let's talk about the Willow Nightingale announcement, and then we'll go to Sean, our caller. So yeah, I didn't know where it was. I didn't know she went on a journey talking about how proud she is, and she has toned herself down, by the way. So I mean, she's not. It's not the best compliment to say you're no longer insufferable, but she is no longer insufferable. Like, she's kind of like, there's just some, I mean, there is a sort of over animated way about her, but she has dialed it down, which is nice. And I thought it felt heavy and genuine that she has a shoulder injury. She didn't say she needs surgery, but she said she doesn't know when she'll be back. And so she has to step away from the Owen tournament and also relinquish her TBS title. Was it still a tiny, like 2% too syrupy sweet by her? Like, I love being the face of TBS. I felt like, that's the only line. I mean, I know it's a thing people say, but like, were you? You know, I mean, like that's a little bit, but other than, because it just feels kind of cliche, but otherwise I thought it was like just a good, heartfelt kind of sad announcement that somebody who's momentum and enthusiasm is talking about joy of performance. Like, she's loved her job and now she has to step away for a while and give up stuff.
Yeah, so I was actually trying to think of, what you would ask me or how you would feel about it when it happened, relative, to my thoughts. And I kind of fall somewhere in the middle with you as well. I thought there were a few things she said which are like, you're kind of propping yourself up bigger than you actually were to a certain extent. But she also, I think, delivered it in a way that did feel real. I think she felt real. I don't think she was trying to be, like arrogant by any means. And I thought it came across as, it does mean a lot to her, and this was really affecting her. So overall, I think it's a net positive. I mean, like I said, was it perfect? No. Was it pretty good and one of the better Willow promos maybe in recent months? I would probably say yes. So,
Yep. Remember what I was going to say earlier. You had said, as you often say, Wade, just because something dumb is done over and over doesn't make it good. I since you're quoting me, I'll augment it only slightly, although the spirit of it is fine.
I was just paraphrasing, but yeah.
Oh, no, and it's not like I say this. You don't have to feel bad. But I want to underline, it isn't that if something's done over and over again, that makes it good. It's that people think if something dumb is done over and over again, we have to stipulate to the idea that it's acceptable, not good. Just acceptable.
Yeah.
It's a lower bar than that. Because some people say, well, if something's done over and over, I don't mean it's good. I just mean we should I think there is an attitude of, well, it's just part of wrestling. I'm like, no, I'm not going to concede a lot of things that bad bookers or bad wrestlers, not bad wrestlers, but people with bad ideas have thrown out there over and over and go. Because sometimes I'll criticize something and they go, well, Bob, gosh, in 1994, this happened. I'm like, yeah, and guess what? I was there criticizing it. Like, I've been doing this a long time. That doesn't mean, I'm not saying it's unprecedented. I'm saying it continues to be stupid, and we should speak out every single time that it happens. Anyway, so Derek Mitchell in the chat points out, no Timeless Tony Storm, Mercedes Monet's been absent, now Willow Nightingale, out of the Owen Hart Cup. Even the deepest roster takes a hit with a few absences. Yeah, I mean, it's good. Other people need to step up, JB. Who's ready to do it?
Yeah, and I'm not convinced Mercedes Monet doesn't replace Willow, actually, as a wild card on Sunday. But yeah, I agree. This is a time. I think Tekla stepped up, which is good as champion. She's a credible champion. I think her run's been pretty good. Obviously, Mercedes is waiting in the wings. It's not like she's out with injury. It's just kind of a matter of the right time to come back, which I think is probably sooner rather than later. And, some of the other, women do have an opportunity to step up. And I think the Owens tournament does have a chance to elevate someone, which I think they should probably use it for this year because the star power isn't really strong there. So I would be of the mindset to use this to elevate someone and then push someone into the summer off of the winning the women's own tournament. That would be my mindset, and I think a way to kind of have a few more people in the top of the card that you're going to need before the return of some of your key pieces. So
they interviewed Statlander and Sheeta about this. What do you think of how the Statlander Sheeta thing is being played out, and where are you on Statlander now, especially because we talk about people stepping up? We're now looking it's just like the NBA players and NHL players are going on. If a top line skater gets hurt, then the second or third line center has to move up depending on the chemistry on the second line. In basketball, someone who doesn't get a lot of bench minutes now starts, and then someone else on the bench who was getting almost no minutes has to take over their bench minutes. That's kind of what we're seeing here with the women's division. Who do you look to step up, and also comment specifically about Statlander?
Yeah, I think the Sheeta stat thing's kind of weird, to be honest with you. Not that I necessarily hate it. It just feels a little awkward. And Stat's who she is. I mean, I would have her on my roster. I think I would definitely have her, in the mid-card, doing mid-card things. Sheeta has the potential to visit the main event, I think, a little bit more often. She's a little bit more credible, and she does have a certain amount of charisma. So I think there is something there. And if they want to feud the two, I mean, that works too. I have no problem. That seems like a good space for both of them. But like I said, that still leaves the gap at, who's going to be at the top of the card.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think personally, I would use this tournament to put Athena. I think I would have Athena win the Owen, put her in the top of the women's division. And it seems, I know I've said this a couple times, but it seems like that's what they're looking to do, especially with some of the promo time they've been giving Athena, although it's been on Dynamite and or Collision. But I think that's what's going to happen, come June. So
it would be kind of insane with now Willow going down, and Tony Storm got to not just give Athena a platform, the large platform of AEW, to fill in this opening. I mean, it just, there's plenty of NBA and NHL analogies of like, you have that player on the bench and you're still not playing them, even though two starters went down. That's kind of what it would feel like. So, yeah. Derek Mitchell quips in the chat, Statlander has had multiple personalities. Not sure if any of them have done her any favors. Zach Barber, by the way, thanks for super chat, Zach, and Derek. We'll get to your super chat in a bit because it's kind of it's not pertinent to the topic now, but I won't forget about it. Or if I do, it's on you because you got to remind me of it if it looks like I'm not getting to it. There, I'm passing the buck. So Zach Barber, super chat, thanks. Says, could Willow's injury have been pre-existing and a way to set up her withdrawal from the Owen to set up the Mercedes return? So, for clarity, Zach's not saying he thinks the injury's fake. He's saying they announced her knowing she would have to withdraw. Yeah. And then they can turn it into a wild card, and that leads to the Mercedes pop. My only thought on that is why? Like, to what ends? Why not just announce a wild card?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And I don't think it's just announced Willow's injury before that. Yeah.
I don't think it's crazy, but like you said, I don't know if it adds a ton. Maybe just creating a little bit of intrigue, the week of, the pay-per-view, I thought would be worth it. And, maybe they think Willow's a big enough name for it, to get some attention. I don't really see a huge payoff in that way, but I don't think it's necessarily a crazy idea either. So,
yeah. All right. Let's bring Sean Plish in the conversation, as I promised we would. Sean, welcome to the conversation.
JB, I gotta say, man, I've heard your emails for how long now has it been? It's been forever, and
10 years probably.
Yeah, it has. So no, it's good to be on with you, man. How have you been?
Absolutely, no, pleasure, Sean. You're one of my favorite callers. You're part of the Torch family that I remember. And you've stayed steady over the years. Some have come and some have gone, and some pop back up. But pleasure to finally be able to speak to you in person.
Yeah, same here, Wade. Always a pleasure to speak to you. That goes without saying.
Of course it does.
Also, I like listening to Sean and Johnny's banter over on Jason Powell's Boom.
That's a blast. I have so much fun talking with them. It's always fun. Going with what you said about
it is not always fun talking to Johnny Fairplay. Don't lie.
Well, it is though. Even if you don't agree with them, it's still fun. I mean, you might totally be like, "What are you saying?" But he makes it.
You're a liar.
Ask him about Liv Morgan. What is his opinion? No, I'm just joking. But
yeah.
Going back to what you said about Athena, because I'm with you guys. I think if you're gonna push anybody, it should be Athena. But my only question, and JB, guys, help me. Why does she have to have the ROH title? Like, I don't understand. Like, we know it's help, or it's just supposedly trying to help ROH. We get it, okay? We know ROH. Nobody's watching. Nobody cares. Just take the title off of her to give it to somebody you're trying to, like a Persephone. If you're keeping her there for a while, just put it on her. Like, have Athena be up on the main show and have her, like you said, do something. Like, it's been way too long. It's been 2 years that she's been around, and then she's off TV for months, and they just randomly put her in the Owen for whatever reason. It's just, I don't know why they keep going start and stop with her. Doesn't make any sense to me.
JB, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I agree to an extent. Well, one, I just stipulate the fact, obviously, AEW has too many titles. I think everyone could agree on that. I've just kind of accepted it at this point. Not that it necessarily should, but it is what it is. But I agree. I mean, that would be one of my bigger quips, I suppose. But secondarily, I also agree. They probably should have went stronger on Athena earlier. Obviously she's been in ROH for quite some time. I think the last time they tried, maybe last summer, they probably should have struck while the iron was hotter then. Not to say it's over by any means. I still think she could very much get over. And I'm going to put my chips in, no double or nothing pun intended, that they're going to go in on the Owen tournament with her this time, as they should, because like I said, their options are becoming a little bit more limited, and they might not even have a choice. And I feel like Tony is high on her, which is even the outer part, because he's given her quite a platform.
And she doesn't express discontent when she's asked about it. And I haven't heard every interview with her. Have you heard otherwise, JB, where she seems antsy or anxious?
She does seem to be proud to be ROH champion and to be, leader of that brand, which is like, she doesn't seem like a malcontent or unhappy about it. I mean, at a certain point, you got to get the most out you can out of her, though, too. So, I mean, that's got to be more of a leadership decision. But I agree. She seems content with what she's doing, which is good because she seems like a team player. So it seems like a person you want to push.
See, I feel the opposite, and I'm being a little dramatic. I lose a little respect for the fact that she seems totally fine, unaware that only like 14 people are watching her during the prime of her career. Like, you don't want to badmouth ROH, but
right.
I mean, give us an indication that you understand you're in the equivalent of, not the equivalent, but the closest parallel to NXT that AEW has. And like, you can say something that there's plausible deniability, but have her say, when it's time for the spotlight to be on me, I'm going to show that I am worthy of the biggest spotlight. Or when I'm wrestling in front of bigger crowds against the top level opponents, I'll always look back on this ROH reign proudly. Like, you can kind of frame it in a way that says you're proud of what you're doing, but it's not the end goal. And I am cognizant that this is not enough. But everybody navigates politics differently. But I say I lose respect for it because it's like, I kind of just want a sense that she does, like, that she's like aware that almost nobody's watching ROH and she's doing good work and it'd be good. So it is a great mystery. I have asked, I have to continue to remember to ask people, like, what's the deal? Because it just, when you ask Tony Khan, he's like, oh, I'm a big fan of her. She's representing ROH well. And then you find 6 other ways to say that and fill 45 seconds. And then it's the next question. Like, you never get anything out of that.
Well, maybe
and he'll rattle off like 4 matches that were great, as if that is the question. The question isn't, is she having great matches? The question is, why aren't they on your A show?
Yeah, kind of maybe adding to what you said, Wade, though. Maybe, as you said, sometimes there's a reason behind the scenes people aren't getting pushed or people like get let go that we don't know about. Maybe she doesn't have the motivation that one would hope to push. And now, obviously, I'm completely speculating, but, this is... Yeah. We're all speculating as to why it hasn't happened to this point. So maybe that could be a driving factor.
Well, and that's part of why I say, a little tongue in cheek, obviously a little over dramatic, but like, I lose respect for her when I don't sense she knows, like, she can be the top person in the women's division. Certainly a top 6.
Yeah.
100%,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, maybe this will be a chance for that to happen. Sean, I wish I had a better answer for why. Yeah. It's a pertinent and persistent. Is there a third P? Particularly astute question from you. I don't like the third letter being the third P being an adjective, but what are we going to do?
Well, and I'll say too, going about, and I talked about it last week, JB. I know you heard me, but the two women we don't know about. Like, I don't know anything about what is it? Kazuki? Is it Kazuki or Hazuki?
I'm not sure.
Again,
Sarie's one, but
yes. Give us something on them, dude. You have 2-3 hours to give us. They have time now. They have a few minutes, but give us something on who these people are. Mm-hmm. You have them in your Owen Hart tournament, and you're not telling us. Most people do not know who these people are. Some do, but most do not. Give us something to sink our teeth into with these 2 women. Something.
So obviously, I largely agree with you, Sean. There is something about AEW's presentation from the beginning where we invite people from around the world, especially a prestigious tournament, and we have a couple spots open, and Hazuki is one of them. And when she's coming out to the ring to take on Persephone, we will tell you about her. Excalibur will tell you about her, and we'll have maybe a little video clip. That's how they do it. And so for the women, I wish they were more explicit and just said, hey, kind of like with Continental Classic, we have 2 slots that are for international competitors that a lot of our fans don't know, and just go, we're going to fill you in on them when, before the bell rings, we'll let you know, or watch the pre-show. And we're going to give you a whole profile on them. I don't know. JB, how important is it? Sean is, making a good point that, like, you want people to care about this tournament. There's only 8 people in it. Why are 2 of them wrestlers who AEW's never introduced their fan base to?
Yeah, I agree with kind of both points being made to a certain extent. And I will say, I don't think it's a coincidence that the next pay-per-view is Forbidden Door at this point, because this almost seems like a Forbidden Door type tournament where you have Persephone, and then obviously I think that the 2 female Japanese wrestlers, Suri and Hazuki, being one. So yeah, this tournament's definitely, the women's side is definitely lacking star power this year. I think injuries have contributed to that to a certain extent. And I do, as I mentioned, I think it's possible Mercedes is the wild card, which will certainly add to the star power of the tournament a little bit. So, this year's tournament, I would use this year's tournament to elevate. I don't think it's going to be the most prestigious tournament AEW has ever done, but I think we're stipulating to a few outside extenuating factors as well. So I don't have the biggest gripe, But yeah, I mean, like it's not. I can't say I'm really excited about the women's Owen Cup this year. And obviously, I think everyone agrees AEW could do a job at various times introducing wrestlers to the audience. But there are also going to be wrestlers that are here for a cup of tea, and that's intentional. I'm also okay with that too, to a certain extent, as you mentioned, Wade, is that's part of AEW's culture, which is a different culture, but it does present itself as an alternative to WWE, as it should. So I mean, there's pros and cons to both sides, in my opinion.
Derek Mitchell points out too, Sean, it's not that folks are unfamiliar with Hazuki and Suri, or as I call her, Suri, but the winner of this tournament is for a title shot at All In. It should feature more star power. It should either feature more star power or, yes, with a gift of a world title shot. Now, granted, Speedball Mike Bailey just got a world title shot in the main event of Dynamite. With that, I think you should right away make people think these two additions from our international slots, the two slots designated for outsiders, not under. Actually, you can say the same about Athena. 3 wrestlers who are not AEW regulars, main AEW contracted talent. Like, these are a big deal, and this is a chance for them to prove themselves against some really top level competition. Obviously, Willow not being in it now makes the brackets look a lot weaker. But yeah, Derek's got a good point. I mean, the stakes amplify your point, Sean.
Yeah, and going back to the 4-way, which I think was just thrown together, has no plot points behind it other than these 4 people just like with Sheeta, Stat. Again, with Sheeta and Stat backstage, I know they have this whatever chemistry, whatever it is between them. I don't know what it is, but at least talk about wanting the women's world title. They said nothing about it. Like, they didn't even care like they wanted it. They're just worried about I don't know. They just didn't even talk about it. Hayter, I mean, was in the match, or she's wrestling a Collision, but I don't know. I mean, they should be talking about wanting the women's title, and it just feels so thrown together. The women's division as a whole, it feels so thrown together. There's no real clear path to where they're going or why they're trying to get there. So, what do you guys think about that,
JB?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually okay with this particular 4-way. I mean, it's not the most captivating 4-way by any means. It is a bit of a filler, but hopefully, like as I mentioned,
Thank you.
I hope Mercedes is the wild card in the Owen, so they either have her win, or as I mentioned, they push Athena, because I would like that. Like I think Mercedes Tekla could be the all-in main event, and that would I think that could get the women's division more on a path. That could be a storyline throughout the summer, worthy of the story and worthy of the star power. It's definitely lacking to a certain extent, and this is a filler, but I'm not really sure that there's anything better they could have really done at the moment. And I mean, some of that is they could have booked things better along the way. Like I mentioned, there's some unforeseen injuries that have definitely affected things as well. So it's not an ideal situation, but I don't think it's an offensive main event. I mean, as it's been mentioned, all these women have issues with each other in certain ways, and they have been champions in the past. So it's not just totally out of left field, but it's also not the most compelling build to this match either.
I mean, and one thing I'll say too about Mercedes when she comes back, I totally disagree that she should be a babyface. She's a terrible babyface. I disagree with that. I don't think she should become. I know the fans will pop for her initially. Her promos are not good, especially as a babyface. I don't think the fans. I think eventually she's going to start getting booed again. I really do. I'm really worried that if they think, oh, she's just going to get this huge pop, which she will initially. I don't know. I mean, Wade, are you feeling with me on that? She's never been a good baby face. We've seen her so many times.
Right.
Her face, it's not good.
No, she's not. I will accommodate the possibility that she has found her footing a little bit in AEW and is familiar with a culture, as JB said, the culture of AEW, and the fans and what to expect, and that she might learn from past stumbles trying to be a even halfway decent babyface. I'm not ruling it out, but what you're saying factually is true, that for the longest time she has not been a good babyface character, and she's great at taking bumps. She has is so dedicated to, there aren't signs that she's not dedicated to it, but right. There's been some bad judgment calls for her in terms of what type of character fans want to cheer. And she's turned people off. JB.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm of the opinion that simple is better with her. If you're going to keep her as a babyface, keep things real simple. Don't have long in-ring segments and long promos, which typically AEW doesn't have, which benefits her relative to WWE, where she'd be asked to do a lot more from the in-ring promo side, and even outside the ring, and how she was in that environment. I think AEW does cater itself better for her to be a babyface, her specific character. So I do think there's a greater chance she could have at least a certain amount of success. Not saying she's going to, hit a home run, but I think it can work for what they're going to try to do it all in London and be kind of that summer feud, and maybe even, extend to the end of the year. I wouldn't make it like a 2-year title reign or anything like that necessarily, but I think she can hold the weight from what AEW is going to ask to do for her for the necessary period of time. And that's just stipulated to who she is and to what AEW is as well.
All right, Sean, what else for us?
Yeah, so I want to talk about the Ospreay stuff again, because I made it clear last week. I think this doesn't make any sense. I know everybody's like, oh, this is compelling. This is great. His reason on Collision was ridiculous. To think that that's the reason why he's going to follow Jon Moxley because, well, I lost to him, and now, but he's the ace. I got to follow him. No, that's ridiculous. That's a lame reason for why you're wanting to all of a sudden listen to everything this guy has to say, and you're like totally on board with this guy. That was a weak explanation. I mean, I'm sorry. You cannot say that was a strong explanation for why he's all of a sudden joining not joining the Death Riders. They haven't said he's joining the Death Riders, but not that I want to get behind any of them, because I don't, because there's no reason for me to want to get behind any one of them. But other than Mox, which I mean, that's a whole nother story. But I just, the Ospreay, even going into the match, people haven't seen. I mean, they'll go back and watch if they're going to watch Collision. But when Shibata comes at him, he gives him the middle finger. Like, Ospreay's never going to give somebody the middle finger. Like, I mean, unless it's a heel that he really just despises, which he's never really been around Shibata and AEW television to despise him enough to want to give him the middle finger. Like, I haven't liked anything they're doing here. And I love Ospreay. I mean, I like the way he submitted Austin last week. I did like the submission part of it. He's trying to find different parts of his game and trying to find. I mean, I do get that part of it, but the reason I just thought was lame. That's not a reason all of a sudden you're going to follow somebody who tried to kill you, and all of a sudden you just lost him. And I got to listen to him.
Yeah. So the key line from 2 weeks ago, Sean, on Collision is him saying, "I know there are things I don't want to do that I have to do to get where I want to go." So he's saying, to get where I want to go, I need to work with the Death Riders. I need to let them toughen me up, train me, teach me. And I think the story they've been trying to tell is teach me how to win without taking chances that could cause a setback on the wear and tear on my body and my neck. That's what I'm pulling from. I don't think that's crazy. And a crazy interpretation of the story that they're telling. You see Moxley and O'Reilly. I mean, the first 5 minutes or so of the match, just mat holds, and that's what they're trying to teach Ospreay. They're not having Ospreay jump off of high places onto mats for trampolines. They're teaching him to win by submission, and that the announcers have made a note of that. Hey, has he won by submission before? I don't recall it. So that's the story. I'm going to have to associate with people and do things I don't like to get where I want to go. Now, JB, one, do you agree with that that's kind of how they've been framing it? How would you grade the job they've done framing it? And 3, is there enough about Ospreay's journey that makes you think, well, if he's medically cleared, he's been pretty successful. He took time off. He's recovered. Let him just go win a title being Will Ospreay. Why does he, just because he had an injury and now he's medically cleared, why not just treat him as a guy who his destiny is to be world champ, and now he's healthy and he's going to do it? It's kind of what they did with Omega earlier this year. So I know it's a multi-part question, so tackle what you can.
Yeah. Well, I'll be perfectly honest. I kind of really like what they're doing with this particular. I haven't liked the Death Riders for majority of what they've done. I'll stipulate to that. I do like the story, though, and I think it works in the sense that Ospreay hit rock bottom. He had to do, he had to come to the conclusion that he didn't know how he was going to achieve his ultimate goal, which is obviously ultimately going to be win the championship at probably All In. And he couldn't figure out a way to do it. Moxley came to him with an olive branch. He saw that, it changed his mind on things in the sense that this is a guy that obviously he's had quite a bit of trouble with over the years. It really injured him over the years, but he came to him with a solution that he couldn't find on his own. So, you have to give some grace to wrestling to a certain extent as well. Otherwise, Randy Orton could have never ever been a heel. He's done some despicable things that come back from that and teamed with people over the years that he's done that with. So I give a certain amount of grace in that regard. But what they're teaching him to do, is a different style that's adapting to what became his weakness. It was his neck injury. Now they're teaching him a ground and pound style, a mat grappling style. That's the story that's kind of being told. They're building him back up. He's learning he can win that way. And it's more of a technical sports story, I would say, as opposed to, kind of emotion built story that is sometimes told. But I think the story works in its own capacity. I mean, is it prestige television? No. Do I think it's compelling? Yes. And do I think it's completely, off the map? No. I think it works in this case. Like I said, a lot of what the Death Riders have done in ambiguity, I haven't enjoyed. But I think they've gotten this right. And even the way that Moxley has been going, particularly kind of with what they did tonight with Kyle O'Reilly and making that a thorough story throughout the show, I also think it kind of worked as well. So I particularly enjoy with the top two stories they're telling in AEW right now with that, and then the Darby MJF story. But that's not to say I think it's been perfect along the way. I definitely think there've been some missteps. And they're getting to that point now where I think it's working. But that's just my opinion.
And it's not like the Death Riders attacked Will Ospreay's dad.
Yeah.
And we got Jericho teaming with the Bucks. The Bucks team with Jericho. I mean, in the lore, the canon of AEW, there's a lot of forgiving going on. Look at Hangman and Swerve. The question is there a strong enough story and a motivation where they give you something to believe in, even if it's not a full mulligan, but it's sort of give them some grace.
Yeah. Sorry, Ospreay isn't saying he's best friends with them, and he's saying he's also never going to be a Death Rider. He's just saying he sees this as a way to achieve his ultimate goal. He's not hurting anyone in the process. He's just learning a different way, it's going to rectify what happened to his neck as well, because ultimately he came back, culminated, and finished his goal, and Death Riders helped him do it, and they came full circle. So,
chat comment, Zach Barber says, "Oh, Sean, I disagree. The point was that Ospreay realized that Mox had a point. Like you said tonight, they killed the old Ospreay and rebuilt him into an assassin." Sadler, on the other hand, Sadler version 3 says, "I don't mind this story if they had a normal feud. But these guys tried to break his neck and end his career. I know it's pro wrestling, but if the beef is that bad, they should have given the story more time." This, by the way, it backs up my point that wrestling is... You will be more successful with the stories you want to tell in pro wrestling in the long run if you don't go outside the bounds of a simulated sport where it's even sort of believable that somebody would be welcomed past security and continue to get paychecks deposited into their bank account given their actions. Don't burn down houses, don't attack dads, and don't try to break necks. Don't set people on fire. And you're like, whoa, wait, you're eliminating a lot of things. I think on balance, it'd be a net positive. Now, are there times a fireball gets used and it's like, okay, that's not that big of a deal? Yeah, especially if you're not going to do an angle where they get together again and it's just a fireball. Like, okay, you get a little flash burn and your skin stings and you put whatever Noxzema on it or whatever you put on it for a few days. That's different than attacking a dad, burning down a house, invading your house, trying to suffocate you with a plastic bag, or breaking a neck. And so to me, just don't go that far. And then you don't have to worry about this stuff because the payoff isn't worth sort of the awkwardness that, Sean, you're feeling watching this.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, I think AEW definitely, goes too far sometimes, as we've noted, over the years. And I'm stipulating to that when I say this, because I'm saying that I'm giving the story a little bit of grace. But yeah, I mean, the neck thing, and so, I mean, that's, obviously been in wrestling over the years, and some things we're asked to overlook that you wouldn't in a as I mentioned, prestige TV. But I'm stipulating to that. So
the Jericho, even with the Jericho and the Bucks at the start of the show, you guys were talking about it, but yeah, it's just like you tried to kill, hurt our father, and he was like, yeah, whatever. I mean, they just made it a joke. It's not a joke. Yeah. It's something serious. Why are we just looking past that? I mean, it's not yes, they talked about it, JB, but they made a joke out of it. It wasn't even a real. Wasn't even a real thing. Oh, you just attacked my dad. Well, he deserved it. I mean, it's why are we making a joke out of something like that? I know that's what they're trying to do, but it's weird.
I mean, as JB brought up, the big part of Randy Orton's career. It's there's so many things you have to ignore. Remember when? I wish I could review the skit because it's been decades, but where Hogan, was it in the trailer? He went after Elizabeth and she was screaming like Hogan was going to sexually assault her or something. I don't remember the exact specifics, but I do remember my reaction at the time. And I think I wrote it in the newsletter, which is Hogan can never be a babyface again, or it's going to be really stupid when they do. Because the level of, contrition and forgiveness that you should beg for when you, as a heel, just do hack over the top things. If you ever want to be a babyface again, The problem is yes, if you attack someone's dad and then you team with them, even if you address it in, like you said, kind of a comedic way, which might be worse than Jericho going, all jokes aside, Matt, Nick, I've done a lot of bad things, but I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But bygones be bygones. Like I'm trying to turn a new page here. Do we need to dwell on the past? But if you just give us, it's sort of like Roman Reigns. We know he's super focused on Jacob Fatu, but just don't be a dick to the guy handing you the belt. Just give him a little nod, like you server when they serve you water. Like that's all I'm asking for. It's just you don't have to go so comedic on something that's serious. You don't have to go so serious as a babyface to the point you just seem like it's off-putting how you treat people as subhuman who are just doing their jobs. Like there's those little touches, and you might argue it's more than a little touch, but like if Jericho just paused and looked him in the eye, almost seemed like he was breaking character in canon. I don't want people breaking character for real, but like he kind of drops the comedy, goes, guys, like there's a lot of stuff I've done as a heel I won't apologize for. I won't say as a heel, but in the past. That's one thing I wish I could take back. And I am sorry. And then Matt, Nick kind of sighs, and Matt looks at him and goes, all right, we'll take your word for it. Like, just have like a moment that feels like there's some gravity to it, and then go back to comedy. That's what I'd call for as a director of the show. For the reasons you say, Sean. JB, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of those points. But to be fair to that specific, the opening skit, I think that's why I actually mentioned why they kind of filled it offsite. What we're, I guess, supposed to think is Portland, Maine, is that we're to assume that they've talked about this beforehand. They've been hanging out. That's why they're able to kind of make a joke of it now, because they're cool. Now, obviously, I think you probably want to introduce that to the TV audience. I don't think this was so egregious that, it really offended me in that regard. But I do think AEW can be too guilty of sometimes going a little bit too much into the comedy. And that's a negative side of the being elite, sphere that they can get in at times. So once again, I think I grant a little bit more grace to the segment, but I can definitely see, some of the complaints and some of the past, I would say failures as well. So.
Yep. All right, Sean.
Yeah. Just want to quick talk about, I thought, again, with Darby, like Guevara getting a title shot was ridiculous. I know Darby probably said, because I didn't see Collision, I don't watch it much because I just a lot of times don't have time, or it's not enough for me to like want to tune in every week. But Darby probably said, I'll give you a title. But like Guevara's done nothing to earn a title shot at all. Nothing. Not one. And the match tonight, I'm sorry, like they did their job in the sense of they're trying everything they can do to make you feel like, oh gosh, Speedball, like our main event could change. Like, dude, no, it's not. I didn't buy into any of the near falls. I didn't buy into anything. There was no intrigue in that match whatsoever. Even with MJF, I'll say MJF was good in his role as a heel tonight. That's what AEW does. I mean, they just have not a lot of intrigue. Like with FTR, like why are they giving the conglomeration a tag team title shot 4 days before? I mean, they're heels. I guess it makes a little more sense, but I just there's no way that Cassidy and Roderick are winning. There's no intrigue in it. You're just having a match for the sake of having a 15-minute match. And Orange Cassidy's getting tired for me. I liked him initially. I'm tired of his act. I just think it's the same thing all the time. There's nothing there. He doesn't evolve in any way to make me like want to get behind him in any particular way. So I want to hear what the guys think about Cassidy, but not a lot of intrigue in a lot of these matches, which takes me out of some of them because I just can't buy into him.
I mean, Cassidy's a utility player for AEW, a legacy act within AEW. It's a TV show, not the pay-per-view, so they're not going to give away, top stuff. Not everybody is going to be somebody everybody like Sean is going to be super invested in. Does Cassidy have enough credibility to be someone they can drop in like they have been in the matches that they are? And I mean, obviously there's the AEW structure of matches too, which is just they're longer almost no matter what. JB.
Yeah. I would say as far as Orange Cassidy, I mean, honestly, I think they squeezed, pun intended, more out of him than I would have expected. So I think they've gotten more out of him than I would have, he's a mid-card guy and they've actually elevated him at different times to like the main event scene and it worked during those times, but he is who he is. So I can't be mad about where he's slotted. And I think, his honestly, his AEW career has been exceeded expectations in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, he is where he is. He's a mid-card guy. I wouldn't, slate him too much higher than that. He's a guy I would have in the mid-card on my roster. But then I guess what was the second question as far as like the intrigue related to the Darby matches? I mean, to me, what intrigued me is the story of Darby breaking down along the way. I mean, this has only been, a month and a half. Yes, I think in most cases we knew Darby was going to win these matches. And particularly tonight, the story of the match is MJF, increasingly becoming irritated to the point of, is this going to affect him on Sunday when, Darby faces MJF? And maybe we'll get to a little bit later, but I'm not 100% sure Darby even loses on Sunday. I think this could actually extend to Forbidden Door.
Interesting.
But I think this reign has been more about the story of Darby, like I said, it's better to burn out than fade away, breaking down over time, because that's who he is. And he'd like to be honorable, and he'd like to, he lives, put him around, balls to the wall. That's who he is. That's been the story. And that's been compelling enough to make you want to watch some of these matches, which are obviously good athletic matches, which isn't all you need, but there has been a story. It hasn't been completely void of story, in my opinion. So,
but how is Speedball not getting as much time as Guevara? Like, come on, like that's ridiculous. Like, I mean, I'm not a Speedball fan per se, but like, come on, he's better than Sammy Guevara. Like,
I wouldn't have had Guevara. That's the one. I think of the one on this reign so far. I would have probably had someone else over him, but it is a collision match, and it's a smaller gripe, but that is a one where it's like, what has he even been doing? He's been irrelevant for quite some time now. At least everyone else has been a certain amount of relevance, I would say, but you can't say that about Guevara.
I would say, I mean, I disagree. I mean, I think MJF's winning. I mean, you're not gonna. They gave it away with the stipulation. I mean, MJF's not going to get his head shaved. I mean, you're building to MJF Ospreay. That's what you're building to your main event at All In. You're not going to have Darby in that main event. It doesn't make any sense why you would do that. And Darby's again. It's not that I dislike Darby. He's not for me. He's not a main eventer to me. So I just don't. I've never bought in, but that's fine. I'm in the minority. That's fine. I can be that, and it's okay with me. But I just think MJF, the way he got squashed again was just kind of ridiculous, and I think he's going to get the title back. He's a heel. To me, I just say you had a great story, an emotional story, with MJF being a dastardly heel, doing heelish things for 4 to 6 months, and have Ospreay win the Owen and just beat him. To me, that's a great story. It's not monotonous at all. If you tell a great story, you don't need the Darby little month run where, yes, he had great matches and he put his body at risk every single time. I mean, it hurts Takeshita. I'm sorry. It hurt him to lose. And the other thing, too, about that story, I know Okada's been out now the last week or so with the family matter, but they had a really good story with Okada Takeshita, and then it just got railroaded, and then it just went nowhere. And all of a sudden, we're just going to have this big match, and Takeshita's going to win a lesser title that he just lost to Darby just a week before. So, like, okay, that's fine. But with Darby, as cool as the matches have been, they had a great story to tell, and I think they could have just went with it. Instead, they had to switch everything up to try to throw people off. And they had a great story. They lost to me. And now Ospreay will still win the title, and it'll feel huge, but I just think Ospreay was already there. I feel like the fans are not as into him as they were six weeks ago. I feel like they're into him, but I don't feel like the pop is like as crazy as it was before he got hurt initially with the neck injury. I don't think they needed to tell the story to get Ospreay to where he needed to go. I just don't. That's just my view.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not unsympathetic to that being a valid path to take. Again, this comes down to what is the long-term arc with Moxley and Ospreay. Right. And so you can say they don't need it to get Ospreay to the title match and to his win, but are they laying the groundwork for something that's going to now have a backstory afterwards? And you have to take that in consideration before being just having certitude that it's the wrong decision to make because you think he didn't need it. They might agree, Sean, he didn't need it. They might be like, obviously he didn't need it, but obviously we're telling a story that we're going to have that is necessary as a foundation for something we're going to do next fall. And so sometimes that's why things are done, not because they have to be done or even because it's the best path, but it's a good enough path that with Tony Khan's long-term booking, he's going, yeah, we want there to be a relationship that fans experience in real time between the Death Riders and Ospreay that we can cash in on after Ospreay wins a title or whatever. I mean, you don't have to be super specific about it. So yeah, I throw that in there. JB.
Yeah, I think for the first point, yeah, I would definitely still bet on MJF is winning Sunday, but I don't think it's guaranteed in the sense that, I mean, if his hair can grow back, why wouldn't he get it shaved? Like, I don't know how hair transplant surgeries work, but if it's capable of growing back, I don't think MJF would be like, no, we can't do this for, we have to wait 2 months for it to grow, partially back. So that's why I put that out there. And then I did too, and I didn't touch on this yet. We haven't touched this yet, but Roosh putting his name in the hat on Dynamite proper today, next week. I do like that little touch in the sense that, okay, well, maybe Darby does win the next week, and he's kind of continues, his, whatever you're going to call it, what he's going on now. That was a small little touch that I liked, as well. Not saying for sure like I said, I still think MJ probably going to win, but it doesn't mean he's not going to have it. Like, he could still win and still lose it at Forbidden Door, and then MJF wins it back, and then obviously that's going to be the Ospreay MJF match. But I don't think this Darby story hurts MJF. My personal opinion, it helps him. It's made him a little bit more unlikable along the way. Sure, it's been a pit stop, and I don't think in late August if Ospreay wins, everyone's going to go. But remember, MJF lost to Darby. He goes, this doesn't actually feel big in London, my hometown. The crowd's not going to go crazy. And then also too, as far as Takesha, that loss, I mean, if they decide to push Takesha to the World Championship, say in like November timeframe, no one's going to go, he lost to Darby during Darby's title reign, back. I think you because people have complained too much about AEW not booking the big matches when they could. So, I mean, there's a certain sense of you can't make everyone happy to a certain extent. And I know there's a lot that goes into it. And everyone has an opinion, which is valid. And I respect everyone's opinion. But, I think overall it works for me. I mean, long-winded way of saying that, but.
Can I ask one quick thing, Wade? Because I don't get to, like I said, I don't get to talk AEW much on here very often. I feel that this is kind of just going back to not the main event stuff, but I just wanted to ask a mid-card question because I feel like with Ciampa, I just wanted to have him lose that match tonight. To me, if you're going to have Ciampa, he's like, I want to go to AEW. I want to do all this stuff. Okay, you're having cool matches, but you're still losing a lot. You still feel like in the mid-card. You're not any higher in AEW than you were in WWE. You're in the same spot. You're having matches you want to have. Okay, cool. Like, again, that's fine. And Ricochet, another point, yes, he's been a better heel than I anticipated, but he just feels so mid-card to me. Like, he's not any higher on the AEW roster than he was on the WWE roster. And he gets all mad about WWE, and that's fine. He can be mad with them. I mean, there's probably things they did to him they probably shouldn't have, but he's not any higher on the card than he was. Like, is it really helping Ricochet just because he's a cool heel that he's like any higher than or can get any higher than he was in WWE? Because I don't feel for either one of them. I know Ciampa's younger or hasn't been there quite as long, but I just feel like he's already lost big matches. I just don't see them on a high trajectory with either one of them that I'm like, ooh, unless they just, I don't know. It's just weird to me.
I mean, I don't know where Ricochet or Ciampa fit in higher on the card without displacing somebody who clearly should be higher. Like, you'd be complaining, why did Ricochet and Ciampa leapfrog that guy when that guy, deserves to be a top guy in AEW? Ricochet is having more fun.
Yeah. And I'm not saying they should be, by the way. I'm not saying they should be. I'm just saying from their perspective. I'm just talking from their perspective.
I think they're using Ricochet in a way that feels more substantial and important to the shows that he's on than when he was in WWE. But they're different contexts. Ricochet stood out for a reason in WWE because of his flashy ring style. In AEW, he's not going to because he's surrounded by people with flashy ring styles. Yeah. So he now gets to embrace and really run with being this heel character that I was skeptical of and kind of rolling my eyes at for a week or two. And then like, maybe there's something here. And now there's definitely something there. I think that he's going to look back at this as an artist. I'm not just having good matches. I now have a character, and I've leaned into it and had fun. I just think they're like the place on the card. I'm not hung up on. I'm more concerned about how are you doing something that feels like you're not just a spot monkey putting in some effort athletically before inevitably losing. And Ciampa's Ciampa. I mean, it seems like from what we saw tonight, he just wants to bleed and have weapons matches and do things that WWE wouldn't let him do. I don't know. That's too broad of a conclusion to draw. JB, what do you think of what Sean's saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, are they higher on the card than they were in WWE? I mean, Ciampa, I would say he's being featured weekly and having matches he wants to have, which wasn't happening in WWE. So was he higher on the card? Not necessarily. Does he feel like he's more substantial? I would say yes. He feels like he's more substantial, and then he's probably doing what he wants to do. And I don't think it's hindering anything for him to do so. So, I think that works. As far as Ricochet, I mean, I think you could slot Ricochet in a main event program fairly quickly with that kind of heel he is right now, and he has a certain amount of credibility. He's essentially the captain of his, Stadium Stampede team, which, that is, you can think of what you want in the match, but that has been presented as a prestigious match in, AEW lore. So, there is a certain amount of respect, obviously, that they're giving to him by having him in that position. So ultimately, I think both guys are where they should be. I think you could easily slot Ricochet a little bit higher when and if you need to for, at least, one main event program to fill, one of the maybe lower level pay-per-views. Ultimately, I think things are going pretty good with both guys, though. I wouldn't have them too much higher. I think that'd be, like Spruce said, I wouldn't display it. I think there's better people on the roster than them in their positions right now. So,
you satisfied, Sean?
No, that's what I'm saying. I was just asking from their perspective because, like I said, I wouldn't have them any higher really on the card than they are. I mean, I think they're kind of slotted fine. I just was talking their perspective from.
Yeah, no, I think, and that's a good thing to underline. But I mean, to me, if I'm losing 2/3 of my matches and I'm in the mid card, but I'm getting to do something that, as an artist, I feel is more contributing more to the show, and that I would show my friends or my family and go, look at this. I'm like getting to show more of what I can do. I don't think the place on the card or their record, I mean, they're not marks. I understand wins and losses don't mean much of anything in pro wrestling. I mean, it's not 1972. Wrestlers know. I mean, it's like a villain in a movie being mad that the hero wins in the end. It's like, but you can still win a Best Supporting Oscar for how good of a villain you were, even though you lost in the end. I think Ricochet and Ciampa so far feel like they're getting to show many more layers and much more broad version of what they can creatively be as wrestlers, as wrestling characters, not just, Ciampa, an indie guy who's in a tag team, and Ricochet, a spot guy.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say too, real quick, Tony, he was just Tony Schiavone, he was just dreadful tonight, man. Like, he's talking about the Briscoe Ciampa. Oh, I've never seen that before. Tony, we see it every third week. We see it sometimes twice, 3 times a month. Don't act like we've never seen that before, that his head got stapled. We've seen way worse than that in AEW, Tony.
Did he mean paper being stuck to the head, though? I think that's how I interpreted it. I was like, well, that's that. I mean, yeah.
He just so it's hard. I mean, I loved him back in WCW. I don't like him much in AEW anymore. Taz is. I'm glad he's back. I love what Taz is doing. He's always brings a lot to the show. But JB, even when I hear you, man, even when I disagree, I mean, I still enjoy your thoughts, dude. Like, it's all good, man. It's always fun. I always enjoy it. Glad to talk some AEW on here finally. I don't get to do it very often. I think a few more weeks I'll be able to, and then I'll be back to working nights and have to watch it at 11 o'clock at night, which kind of sucks. But it is what it is. I get to talk to Zach, at least on Discord, and argue with him on there, so that's always fun. I'm excited to hear what Brandon has to say being there live. I'm curious what the crowd was like, and I'll get off here and get in the chat.
No, absolutely. Yeah, Sean, it's a pleasure speaking with you, and definitely, it's just everyone's have an opinion. It's just cool to have. So I'm just really enjoy talking to you. It's an honor. So thanks.
Yeah, man. All right, see you guys.
JB, an honor.
Yeah.
I wanted Sean disconnected before I got his reaction shot to me.
I mean, how many people have songs on the show? You know what I mean? So
yeah. Fair. Yes, that's a good point. That is a good point. Two, to answer it. All right, we got some chat comments here. Let's see. I might do them in random order as opposed to trying to organize it. Ducky D says, it's okay to tell a story where the protagonist makes seemingly illogical decisions. Maybe Ospreay shouldn't trust Mox. Maybe it ends up biting him in the end. He seems like a desperate man. I mean, I think that's fair. Like, protagonists can make an illogical decision. Maybe we are supposed to sit here and say, no, Ospreay, don't do that. What are you thinking? And yeah, his head's not on right.
Yeah, absolutely. You can disapprove a decision that your people you look up to or heroes make. Like you said, no one, no one's all good, no one's all evil to a certain. I mean, that's the shades of gray, but TM. But yeah, I agree with that statement. So
yeah. Mark Biscotti says Darby as champ has made AEW feel more indie-rific than at any point in company history. Is that a reasonable take that you can understand some people feeling, or do you think no?
No, I don't really agree with that, to be honest. I think Darby comes across as pretty serious. You could say you don't buy him as a main eventer, and that's fine. I mean, that's a valid argument. But to say he's indie-rific, I don't think he's doing like a crazy shtick or anything like that. I mean, look, he's a credible wrestler that does pretty. You could argue he's the best bump taker in the business right now. I mean, he's really valid in what he does from an in-ring perspective. He's not doing goofy skits or funny comedy bits and things that are completely outside of canon. I think the story he's telling is completely within canon. I think he generally connects with the audience. I mean, it's not like he's just dying on the vine out there. There's definitely an audience for him somewhere. The reaction he gets, obviously you can't judge everything based on online opinion because that varies quite substantially. But there definitely is some support for him. So,
Ducky D said, Darby's making a point of defending against all comers, including people like him who are easily overlooked. Yeah, I mean, there's something to that. Darby's like, I'm not going to, I think he said it early on, he doesn't want to be, he wants to treat challengers the way that he wanted to be treated when he was, not taken seriously. Sadler Vision 3 says, I don't mind the Darby story. I just think the timing of it is awful. They should have done this in that terrible Death Rider reign of terror. Derek Mitchell wants to know, is there certainty Darby doesn't retain the title and MJF gets his head shaved with the help of a returning Hangman Page? Standard Ovation adds to it. I think Darby wins. Rude Dog says Darby's new logo shows his name as Darby, all caps, all space in. Is this a...
Not sure if Wade dropped off, but I can't see him right now. But yeah, if he did, Rude Dog, that is a very interesting touch if that's true, because, that's really attention to detail then, and I appreciate that. So I didn't notice that, but good eye there. It makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, he can still be there.
Yeah.
I mean, what we read into it is he plans to be at All In. Yeah. All right. Brandon LeClaire is standing by. He attended tonight. Let's bring him in for what might be nearly the final stanza of the show. Brandon, welcome. Good to hear from you.
Hey, glad to be here. I did not know that you guys were going live directly after Dynamite and not including the live Collision broadcast. So no. I jumped in and saw you'd already been live for over an hour, and I was like, oh man, I missed a lot. But yeah, just getting out of the arena and back to my car. So glad to hop on.
Yeah, so we've been keeping an eye on Collision. We have made a habit of not watch, FTR sure. against the conglomeration. I mean, I don't know if we need to wait when the main event. Obviously, Tony Khan treats the second hour as the peak and the third hour is sort of normal Collision B-level stuff. But we kind of kept half an eye on things, and obviously like the Ospreay stuff I want to go back and watch. Well, try to watch everything. But yeah, so let's just, Brandon, focus on this is not a building that gets a lot of wrestling.
No.
In my TV report, I noted that the last time they were here, or the last time pro wrestling was there, it was a WWE show. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the Cross Insurance Arena it has been around for much longer than I have. It's been the primary arena in the state for the last 50 plus years. It's been renovated a couple of times. It has played host to many, many WWE house shows over the years. But the last time pro wrestling was televised, not just here in Portland, but in the state of Maine, was December of 1997 for an episode of Raw. Wow. So this was an event, and I was genuinely curious, having participated in the local wrestling scene some. Limitless Wrestling has gotten to be quite popular here, and a lot of AEW mainstays come from Limitless, spent a lot of time in Limitless, and Limitless gets big crowds, and they've drawn crowds in hockey arenas, smaller arenas than this, but still arenas. They've made a habit of running 2 shows a year at the Coliseum in Lewiston, about 40 minutes up the road. And, they can put about 1,500 people in there for one of their bigger events. MJF was actually at the one in January. And it sort of felt like almost a test run to see if AEW made sense to come here. And I would say that we passed with flying colors. This was a crowd that very clearly was appreciative of the fact that somebody finally brought TV to the state of Maine. And I don't know how it came off on TV. Inside the building, it was hot from start to finish. And I would, I've been to shows at TD Garden. I've been to shows at Madison Square Garden. And this obviously was nowhere near as big as any of those shows. But in the building, it felt like a big deal. And that was really cool.
Did the crowd sustain energy the whole time? Like, did it just seem like, my God, we're like our city, our arena's on national television for 3 hours?
There was a notable drop when Collision started, and I think that AEW has just sort of trained its audience that Collision isn't particularly important, and so I think that there was some fatigue at that point. The Arkady Aura was the ring announcer for the entirety of the show. She did a really good job engaging the crowd during commercial breaks, and she actually asked the crowd to stand up and kind of give it their all right before the tag team title main event, and they did. And you know, she was really engaging the whole night throughout commercial breaks, trying to get the crowd up whenever there was a lull. But yeah, it was sustained. I mean, I don't know that it ever quite hit the highs again that maybe it did during like the Tommaso Ciampa and Mark Briscoe match, or maybe the main event. But there were significant reactions to major things throughout the night, and I don't know if you guys caught the tail end of Collision, but I'm really curious how the show went off the air, because there was some stuff afterward that was really fun too.
On the Collision portion,
Yes.
you know, I wasn't. I was not watching Collision close enough to know when it went off the air. I could check the
Okay.
DVR. Do you have it on, JB, in the background?
I have it. It's on in the background, but I just caught this. I mean, I was, you know what I mean? I should be looking up every now and then, but I didn't see the end. So, yeah.
So I assume that Adam Copeland and Christian Cage did make the broadcast. They came out and made the save for Cassidy and for Roderick Strong. But the surprise, the sort of go home surprise, is after the show went off the air, is Scotty 2 Hotty came out, which is a pretty big deal. He is a Maine legend. He is from Portland, so it was kind of a big moment to have him out there. They brought him out with the Too Cool music. He had a fun moment in the ring with Copeland and Christian Cage. Orange Cassidy came in. Cassidy kind of did the half-hearted clap, the Too Cool clap. And then Cassidy presented Scotty with a pair of sunglasses, and Scotty did the worm. And then the crowd tried to coax Christian into also participating in the worm. He looked like he was going to do it, and Copeland was like really egging him on. And instead, in a huff and puff, Cage left the ring very quickly and started marching up the ramp. But what I thought was maybe the funniest moment of the night, while he's stomping back up the entranceway, he made sure to beat up Trent Beretta and Rocky Romero again and chase them all the way to the back. So that was a fun little send home after they went off the air. Tony Khan kicked off the show before they went live and closed the show, as he often does with these events. I've been to a few AEW events now. He more or less does the same thing at the start and the conclusion of each show. But I was pleased that he seemed genuinely really happy with the crowd. He said that he was sorry it took them 6 years to come up here, but that they will be back many times, and he promised that. So
hold him to it.
Yeah.
Collision went off the air with just FTR and not Prince Nana holding their arms up.
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So no Scotty Trot or anything like that. So it's good to have you on when they do, because normally they don't do that much stuff after show goes off the air. So that's a lot of cool, fun stuff.
Yeah, they I noticed that they had a Tron ready, graphics ready for Scotty, and they spelled Hottie IE, I assume, to avoid any potential copyright issues there.
I hope a lawyer didn't get paid a lot of money for that one. Did the crowd? Well, I'll just ask more open-ended. Who got the biggest reaction? Were you surprised that anyone got more than you expected, and were you surprised by anyone getting less than you expected?
Yeah, I'll take the less than I expected first. That would be Swerve Strickland. I came in, knowing that he was advertised for the show. I sort of expected him to get a star reaction. He really didn't. And I don't know if it was just because of the segment that he was involved in. There wasn't a ton of heat behind he and Bandito. They haven't done a lot to build that up, even though they've got the qualifier or the quarterfinal on Sunday. So that one surprised me, I guess, in a negative way. I would have expected a little bit more for him. As far as positive reactions, no one stood out to me as overwhelmingly positive that I wouldn't have expected. Chris Jericho, huge reaction, of course, opening up the show. That certainly helps. Will Ospreay, huge reaction for a Collision, and for my money, looking around, I saw more Will Ospreay jerseys than anything else as far as AEW merch. Beyond that, I would say good reaction for Darby Allin, not world champion level reaction.
Okay.
And major star reactions for John Moxley and for MJF. MJF got a really big reaction. It was heel heat for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that there's an overwhelming amount of respect here for MJF, largely because he did so much work in Limitless prior to going to AEW. And I think that this crowd, which there were Limitless t-shirts all around. I saw many people that I recognized from the shows, a lot of local wrestlers there. MJF came back to Limitless this past January, like I mentioned. And I think that was a really big deal for the promotion. And I think the fans know that. So there's a really healthy built-in level of respect for what MJF is. And even though, they respect him enough to boo him.
Yep.
And then you didn't get to hear his commentary either. But he was on commentary for the Darby match and was just, great at being a heel also. And that one we talked about that earlier. JP, do you want to respond to anything Brendan said? Otherwise, do you want to ask him anything specific from his in-arena experience?
No, yeah, I just want to say that actually, I thought the crowd was pretty good tonight. I mean, you could, it definitely felt more high energy than last week for sure. But yeah, I guess the question I had is, oftentimes, crowds react differently to segments that are on the Tron. So did the crowd seem to enjoy the humor of the opening skit between the Bucks and Jericho that seemed to be kind of on offsite in Portland, Maine? Did they react well to that, or did it, kind of get crickets?
No, it got a solid reaction. I'm interested to go back and watch that because I didn't catch the majority of it. I can give a little bit of a background here on the ticket buying process now with AEW, but I had bought a floor seat and I was down there just before the 8:00 broadcast kicked off, and I was sandwiched in a situation that didn't smell great. That's probably the kindest way that I can put it. And so I knew of some other seats that hadn't sold that were up in the lower bowl just behind me, and I took that opportunity to go up there and move. So I was on the move when they were doing that backstage skit, but I heard the crowd laughing and reacting. So yeah, I think it went over pretty well.
Not doing the wrestling, reputation any favors there, Brandon. But
how about the reaction to any of the women, either on the big screen or in the ring? How did that compare? Like Willow's announcement, I assume, aired in the building.
It did. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, just kind of covered that. I mean, we spent a good amount of time on the show talking about if Willow's stepping away, you got Toni Storm out of action. Mercedes has been absent for lately. And yeah, I mean, it's not super deep, but like, were people popping for Athena, or I don't know. Yeah, just comment on that.
Yeah, really good reaction for Willow, and some clear disappointment at her announcement for sure. As far as the action in the ring, good reaction for Athena. People definitely knew who she was. I heard some people around me telling others that she was Ember Moon. So there was some passing along of history information there. Decent reaction for Thunder Rosa. Decent reaction for Tekla. But no one I would say stood out among the rest. Honestly, if you ask me which woman on the entire show got the largest reaction, I would say it was Renee Paquette, who was introduced during a commercial break when she had come down to ringside to do an interview. We didn't hear from her at all, but when she was introduced, she did wave and slap some hands with fans at ringside, and she got a really, really big reaction.
JB, do you want to bring up anything else?
Yeah, another thought I had was during the Briscoe the Briscoe match.
Mm-hmm.
How did the crowd react to that level of gore and violence?
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah,
did it go over well? I mean, like I said, it seemed like a little overabundance for just like a TV Dynamite, but obviously those audiences are a little bit more hardcore as well, typically. So.
Yeah, that was a match that I enjoyed watching very much in person, and was kind of swept up in the excitement that the crowd had. I would say it went over. It to the live crowd. I think it was the most exciting match of the night. There was a ton of investment in the opening 6-man tag, but a lot of that had to do with it being, first major televised match of the show, and you're getting big stars in Chris Jericho and the Young Bucks. So that got a significant reaction. But yeah, I would say Ciampa and Briscoe had the most investment on the show. The standard "this is awesome" chants pretty early on. There were definitely groans and sort of like recoils from the audience at some of those spots. If I had been watching on TV, I absolutely would have been like, this is too much for a Dynamite. But I understand why people get kind of wrapped up in it in person, and it went over well.
How do you feel, Brandon, about that level of being eyewitness to that level of violence and big spots? I mean, the Ciampa spot, we could have led with that. Like the spot where the two chairs are set up back to back, and he gets just flung off the top rope. It's not like going through a table. A table's like, it's fun, it makes a noise, it's iconic, but it's a landing that absorbs the physics of it. I'd rather land on a table than not. That's going to slow you down. It's like a breakaway bumper, like Tony Khan's dad invented versus the old school ones, which is hard metal, and it just was awful. Landing on that chair, I thought Ciampa was going to be paralyzed. I thought his back was. I don't know how they do it. I mean, I'm just amazed. So I throw that in as an aside because I wanted to bring that up. Like, I just don't do that spot. If you're Tony Khan, no, don't. You don't get to do that anymore. Because it's not like it went wrong.
Yeah,
it went right, and it's like two chairs. You're landing your spine. You could end up with serious. I don't know. To me, a layperson, that looked like a bad decision. So yeah, tell me what you thought of the violence in person.
Yeah, it was. I think being part of a crowd that's so enamored by it kind of lessens the blow almost. I remember that spot in particular, and I remember thinking, oh, this is going too far. But at the same time, crowd was really into it. So it's hard in the moment to just be like, I can't enjoy this. Seeing both of them bleed as heavily as they did took me back a little bit. I was at Blood and Guts in Boston 3 years ago now, and even that in the cage, in the double cage, I don't remember if there was quite as much blood. Maybe there was, but I'm having a hard time recalling. But this was right up there with the amount of blood I've seen at a wrestling show. The one time I can remember that really stands out, oddly enough, was a WWE house show, circa probably like 2005. And Eddie Guerrero had a vicious blade job against JBL. And they were brawling out in the crowd, and it was one of those like Steve Austin WrestleMania 13 Crimson masks where it's just like spilling onto his chest and down onto his tights. That's the only one I can remember where I was, at an event where there was quite that much blood. And obviously the stapled paper to Briscoe's head, I think, almost gets to the point of comedy, even though you're supposed to be looking at it as this hyper violence. The fact that this grown man is walking around with a piece of paper stapled to his head kind of gets a little ridiculous. So there is certainly an element of expectation too from the audience that they're going to see something hyper violent when they're being advertised a hardcore match or a no holds barred match. I heard a person a couple of rows behind me say that they were glad that AEW doesn't care about chair shots to the head. And I was just like,
Hmm.
that's not the message that we want to send at all.
No. No, and I mean, did they say it like, I love going to AEW shows because AEW doesn't care about chair shots to the head? I
Yes.
missed that.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
It was like very happy that this level of violence was allowed and promoted. Yeah. Yeah.
Was Tony Constant behind you? No. The cheese grater. I mean, yeah.
Did
Just
the rubber chicken?
Yeah.
Was that okay? That was on
Coming out of a
TV.
break.
I wasn't sure.
Coming out
Okay.
of a break, yeah.
Okay,
We,
okay.
we saw that the tail end, dare I say?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just remember seeing it for sure. It was mentioned too, but
And they
yeah.
brought it up,
One thing that I noticed that I would say is a pretty stark contrast to a WWE TV taping is how little the live audience is privy to commercial breaks. I mean, obviously, when it's between matches, you're aware because you have the ring announcer doing ring announcer things at a live event, keeping the crowd engaged. But if they take a break during a match, there's really no indicator to the live crowd whatsoever that they're in a break because the wrestlers do not slow down. Like they're not going to grab a rest hold. The lights don't dim the way that WWE does it. WWE makes it very apparent when you are in a commercial break. This was not that at all. So I wasn't sure how much of the chicken made air.
Super chat from Derek Mitchell's on our last topic. I'm glad AEW presents wrestling differently from WWE, but they lean too much into excessive blood and violence that isn't always necessary. Briscoe versus Ciampa didn't need that level of blood tonight. I agree with that, by the way. I don't think that Ciampa and Briscoe is at a level that they should be, because to me that is you're numbing your audience to something that should feel like the culmination of like a Swerve Hangman level feud, and it's kind of a throw in match. And both guys bleeding and that level of apparatus weaponry being used. I would just save that for when you want it to be epically remembered. And this was just, hey, we want someone to sit behind Brandon and say, I love that AEW has all this blood. I love that they do chair shots ahead. It is playing to, I mean, we can say what's, sickos can mean different things in different contexts. I still argue sickos doesn't mean an extra dedicated hardcore fan. I think when Tony Khan says it and people about AEW say it, there is something to it that is about the excess. Excessive is framing it preemptively, but just the massive amount of violence and blood. I think that is when Tony says we are playing for the sickos. He is saying that in great part because he believes the violence is part of what appeals to them, making them sickos. So anyway, throw that.
And the sickos T-shirt was one of the hot sellers. I mean, it was on proudly on display. Merch wise, fairly mundane lineup. I mean, they had the sickos T-shirt. They had a AEW hoodie that was very very basic, like not even the logo, but just said all elite wrestling on a gray pullover hoodie. Will Ospreay jersey, which did sell out. I did see as I was leaving they had pulled it down. A John Moxley T-shirt, a MJF T-shirt, a Darby Allin T-shirt, some action figures, and the World Championship replica belt, which was $800.
I remember as a kid thinking how cool it would be to have a replica belt, but I mean, it took me like 3 years to get $16 saved up to subscribe to Pro Wrestling Illustrated so I could save money and get the issues earlier because that was a big commitment. Anyway, it's a different
Wait, when I was first getting into wrestling, I thought it would be really cool when I was an adult to be able to spend $300 on a ringside seat for a pay-per-view so I could get a chair. And now those are what, like $2,500 starting?
Yep.
Does 300 get you in the door for a WWE pay-per-view anymore?
Hey, in the old NHL days, Minnesota North Star days, like they had standby tickets that if the puck had dropped already, you could show up at the box office and get tickets for like that were like, I mean, I'm not remembering exactly, like $33 lower bowl tickets for $5. Like, I mean, it's just if you're willing to get there, it was just their way of making a little extra money off of people who didn't want to see the puck drop. And I was a kid. I'm like, I want to go stand and wait for the puck to drop. And then if there's these lower bowl seats for $5 or $10, I don't know, it might have been $8 or something. But yeah, It is just, it's insane. I'm like concerts, like there's bands I like, but if the tickets were priced, I know, and Brandon, I know you love going to concerts, but I mean, it like when tickets started going above $100, I remember when that was a huge deal. And now it's like, I mean, there's times where I'm like, this would be a experience of a lifetime. But you know what? So would not working till age 95, to pay off credit card debt.
Bands that I saw in this very arena that I just left tonight for $35, like 15 years ago now, or $500 at Fenway Park.
Yep. And I get we're not paying as much for CDs. Like artists need to make their money off of touring now because they get a pittance from streaming services. So it's but it's across the board. I mean, it isn't just concerts; it's wrestling, it's sports. You could sit front row at a Timberwolves game in the '90s for $1,000. I mean, and that's a lot of money. But like front row, and now it's I know how much. It's like $12,000 or something. So yeah, it's just anyway.
I wanted to mention the ticket price thing because it's something I'm always curious about whenever there are in-person perspectives on these shows, and it's something that I try to keep an eye on pretty regularly if it's a show that I'm attending, and with this one in particular, I had access to the pre-sales, all of the pre-sales, and I could have sprung for front row, but I'll tell you, AEW certainly is far more affordable than WWE, but front row for this show was $500. Wow. And it sold. I mean, they sold every last front row ticket at $500. They never cut that price. So it dropped as you went further back. But here's the most interesting thing is all along they were offering the street team discount, the 30% discount, and the 20% discount on the vast majority of seats up until today. And they excluded the floor seats and the first few rows of lower bowl from those promotions. So they were trying to get full value for them. They had been cutting the price by about $10 every week in the lead up to this event.
Okay.
So I was trying to watch it pretty closely. They also started releasing every other row on the hard cam side about a month before the show. And those were sold at lower prices. So coming into today, I still didn't have a ticket. I actually drove down. So Portland is like an hour and 10 minutes or so for me, a drive. So I drove down without a ticket, thinking I'd either grab one from the box office or I'd pick something up on my way down. At around 2:30 this afternoon, they did two things. One, they started allowing the discount codes to be applied to all seats, including whatever was left on the floor. They released some floor seats in the 4th and 5th row on the hard cam side, and they slashed the prices on the floor from $175 all the way down to $79. So the ticket that I ended up purchasing would have cost me $175 this morning, and with the 30% discount code, cost me $59 at 2:30 this afternoon. And I didn't even sit in it. I ended up sitting about 10 rows up in the lower bowl on the hard cam side. And it was a great view. I was super happy there. And actually, if I had purchased that ticket when it was available, I would have paid more for it than the $59 I paid for the floor seat. So I got a deal regardless. But the setup for this show was about a 3/4 setup. So the Cross Insurance Arena at full capacity is just shy of 8,000. This was probably set up for somewhere in the 45 to 5,000 mark. I don't know what WrestleTix had as the count. It certainly wasn't sold out, but it looked good. I mean, it didn't look sparse by any stretch.
Oh, I know. There's super chat from Sean Plichta who says, "I really feel like Swerve has lost something."
Yeah, I was feeling that.
Yeah, talk about seeing Swerve in this role and Prince Nana and how they were live, and you kind of your vibe, the gist that you're starting to there. So did Swerve when they came back from break was Swerve coming out or did you guys see the whole segment with Shivani and Nana? Yeah.
Yeah, we saw.
I assume
You
so.
saw
I mean,
everything.
it
Okay,
felt,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shivani
I
introduced
was
and then Swerve cut him off. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if Shivani was off camera or not because he got introduced and it kind of felt like something they do during breaks. But
Every Shivani interview in ring leads to wrestler interrupting him and taking
Yeah.
the mic and shooting him out of the ring.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
like the third most common scene in AEW is Tony Schiavone sheepishly crawling through the ropes to leave and before he gets to ask a question.
yeah,
Yeah.
It just felt like it. I don't know if it was the music. I mean, there was such a connection to Swerve's music, and that's just gone. I don't think that the crowd is all that invested in the new theme. Was this another new theme, or was this the one he's been using?
It didn't jump out to me as new, but I don't know.
It just didn't get a reaction. Like they knew Swerve was coming, like because Nana was out there and he was advertised for the show, but there just wasn't a reaction. I mean, there was a few people that I could hear trying to get like a "Whose House" chant going, but it just didn't catch on.
Well, good because he's a heel. It shouldn't. I mean, like
Sure.
part of what Sean says. Oh, he's lost something. By design, when you go heel, if you're over as a babyface, you should give up a lot of stuff. Seth should have given up his music.
Yeah.
And he would have felt more flat, but that's your duty as a heel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's not ideal to seem flat, but I respect giving up some things that are working because they don't fit being a heel so that you don't create a culture amongst your fan base thinking it's all about communal chants and singing lyrics to the concert. Instead, it's investing in the sports story.
Yeah, and I thought
Yeah.
I heard.
Go ahead, JB. Yeah.
I thought I heard a chant where the Whose House, where it was something like "not this house" or something like that. So it was like a negative, like against Swerve or something like that. I couldn't really quite make it out. It seemed like it was coming from the first few rows, but it seemed like it was like an anti-Swerve chant, which honestly is what you'd want in this heel scenario. I can't be 100% sure of that, but
yeah. Brandon, anything else you want to bring up from your experience tonight?
I was this is just pure anecdotally, but it was interesting to see the number of TV trucks that they had to cram onto the street here in Portland. They shut down 2 whole streets around the Cross Arena to accommodate all of the trucks. I think I counted somewhere in the ballpark of 11 as I did my lap around the arena.
Brandon, before you move on, there's something cool about like driving by, even like it's happened to me where I've driven by the arena in the afternoon, before an evening show, and it's your neighborhood. It's like part of your, and all of a sudden there's all the wrestling trucks there, and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's just like it's like seeing your teacher at the grocery store on a Saturday. Like, that's in my town, and that's my building that I saw the concert in and the sporting event in, and the whatever. And now they're here, so yeah, it's kind of cool.
It was very neat. I mean, I have gone to, I don't know, in the ballpark of 30 to 40 televised wrestling shows over the years, but they've all been in Massachusetts or New Hampshire or New York or Florida. Like they've just never been here. So it was neat to kind of do a lap around the arena and see all the trucks and the satellites and whatnot. And of course, wrestling fans never going to beat the allegations of not being the smartest bunch. There was a line wrapped around the arena to get in when doors opened at 6:30, and I didn't feel like waiting in line because I don't know about what it's like in the Midwest, but we're getting our first heat wave. So it was 90 degrees here today, which is insane for May. But I did a quick lap around the arena knowing that there was an entrance in the back, and I walked right in.
Good for you. That's awesome. By the way, my framing of Ciampa and Tommaso Ciampa, did I say the same name twice? Of Briscoe and Ciampa, Zach Barber says, it was a grudge blow-off match, Wade. Yes, I know. But it's
just not
Ciampa and Briscoe in the middle of a Dynamite. It didn't get
not even the middle. It was like the second match on the show.
No.
Yeah.
It like if my answer to Zach. I mean, yes, I stipulate to the fact that it had its own internal story. It wasn't a thrown together match like randomly, but I still stand by that if you do that much blood and violence, that should be the main event or the co-main event. And frankly, it should probably be safe for a pay-per-view, or it should be the biggest thing you're talking about, not because of the violence. The match itself should be the biggest match on the TV lineup if you're going to do that much violence. I think it defines down that level of violence if it's the second match on a go-home show where you're promoting a pay-per-view primarily, and it's mid-card talent not fighting for a title, but a 2-week grudge. I mean, I'm sorry. Zach. I'm not going to concede that. JB, where are you on this?
No, I agree. Yeah, like you said, it didn't fit with the context of it. Didn't fit. I mean, could you build this up to be worth that with these two guys? Yeah, probably. And is it the biggest offense ever? Also, probably not. But I don't think it really worked where it was at. So I definitely lean more towards your side on that, Wade.
Yeah. I mean, even hearing that the match was scheduled for tonight, I didn't expect this level of violence.
No.
I certainly did not expect it.
It was jarring. I mean, and I'm used to AEW, but yeah. And I'm used to Mark Briscoe, and I'm not quite as used to Tommaso being in that lately, but that's WWE for you, not counting Eddie and JBL. JB, anything else you want to Brandon?
Just one quick thing. Actually, someone wanted to know what's your opinion on Darby being champion, and how was that working in the arena? I guess, Brandon.
It felt like it was working for the most part. Again, I did not feel like I felt like the reception to Darby was positive. It was not overwhelming in the sense that, the crowd liked Speedball. I mean, they didn't love Speedball, but I didn't get the sense that Darby was several multitudes bigger a star than Speedball. Like, he was certainly a bigger star than Mike Bailey. I'm not trying to say that they were on equal playing fields whatsoever, but there were Speedball chants. I mean, there were people in the crowd that really liked Mike Bailey. So for that to take hold, I think that you have to concede that we're not talking about Will Ospreay or Kenny Omega or, Hangman Adam Page here with Darby Allin. There isn't that level of attachment to Darby that there is to some of the other guys on the roster. And I have never been a big believer in Darby Allin. I don't view him as a world champion level guy. I understand why they put the title on him. I appreciate the level of the level and the quality of matches that we've been getting as Dynamite main events with him as world champion. It would not be something that I would have booked. It's simply his character is not for me at this level, but nothing I saw tonight would say it's not working. But by the same token, nothing I saw tonight would say that it would be a huge mistake to put the title back on MJF on Sunday.
I had some of the same skepticism that you did about, and other people have expressed about Darby as champion. And I think what they did is they showed an awareness and accounted for Darby being a different kind of champion. And so I don't like world title shots being handed out to people who don't, quote, deserve them or aren't getting them based on normal merits. I think it can define down what it means to get a world title shot. It's not perfect. It hasn't been handled perfectly in the past. I get that. But all that said, this has been framed so much as Darby just wants to face different people. And again, someone in the chat pointed out well too, people who get overlooked like he would in the past because of his size or, whatever. He doesn't look the part. I think they've done enough. I think they've done all they can, frankly, in the context of this heavily concentrated title shot of the one title defense after another every week. And I thought Darby's promo tonight was great for a babyface promo. I mean, when I say great, wasn't epic, but it was great for the time it had and its place in the purpose it was serving. And so to me, they took away pretty much any criticism I have of it. Don't do it again ever. You know what I mean? Like, this should be what this is so related. This is so unique to Darby. But people look back and go, remember that time when Darby held the belt? Was that a couple months? And he defended. And again, people think maybe he survives and MJF gets shaved bald on Sunday too. I mean, I don't think it's a given that that's going to happen. I think there's other ways I can tell that journey. Anyway, JB, you're kind of nodding along somewhat to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you, Wade. I think this was okay to do. I mean, is it like I mentioned earlier, is it a home run and is it red hot? No. Is it working? I think yes as well. And is it going to disrupt a story, that's really displacing something huge coming in the future? I really don't think so. I don't think MJF's got any colder from this angle, and I don't think this is going to affect All In. So really, I don't really see any harm done it. And I think it's good to give Darby this to a certain extent, and his credibility is there now for the future if you ever need to pull the Darby card again.
And to that point, JB, I would say that the crowd tonight, when you said it hasn't cooled MJF off, I would say that the crowd tonight really liked Darby Allin. They just didn't like him as much as they hated MJF, which is not a bad thing. I mean, that's not a bad issue to have. And Darby's promo went over well. There wasn't a lot of mic work tonight by any stretch, but Darby's was eclipsed by Will Ospreay's on Collision. It was a I know you guys didn't see that show, so I would say it's worth going back and checking. I'm not going to say, it's like some sort of massive, energy shifting promo or anything like that, but it was a real statement of purpose from Ospreay that Sunday marks the beginning of his journey to the World Championship. They were very, very clear about putting him on a very specific track tonight. And it sounded good in the arena. I mean, the crowd was very into it. Ospreay seemed really, really motivated, really excited about the whole thing. So that was the promo of the night, even though there was very little of it.
Yeah. Sean, by the way, in response to our commentary on Darby, MJF was doing so well in this role, and Darby didn't need a title run. I see your point, though, Wade. I don't think I will remember this in 5 years, though. Ospreay will hopefully be way more memorable, even though I wouldn't have gone that route with him either. I'd say that's more about your memory, Sean, than anything. If you don't remember Darby's title reign that we're talking about on the show, of course you're going to remember it. But in all seriousness, this is memorable, but I'm not saying it's going to be as big of a deal business-wise as Ospreay. They're crowning a guy who, they have him now in their graphics when you DVR the show, and it shows you what's on your DVR menu. Like they got Ospreay up there with MJF and Kenny now. They are in the Ospreay business. He's not a novelty from overseas who, they don't have faith to stay healthy or can't get enough dates on or whatever the perception might have been of him in the past. They're in the Will Ospreay business now. Like fans see that, and it kind of came on gradually because there were a couple appearances like, hey, look, there's Will. Oh, now he's gone for months. So, to that point too, with Ospreay, John Moxley, Chris Jericho, and Moxley. It was Moxley, Ospreay, Jericho, and MJF and Willow Nightingale were the names and photos front and center for all the promo material for this show. Yep. Standard Deviation says Ospreay is the next top babyface of his era. It's always fun to watch the rise of the next top guy. I think that's part of why they, Sean goes, oh, Darby didn't need a title reign. I think look at how emotional Darby got when he was giving away that he was going to win the title later in the show. This meant so much to him. He is a pillar. He is someone who Tony Khan adores. Darby is as loyal to AEW as any wrestler has been loyal to any company. It seems, by all indications, this is his life. He is grateful from where he came from compared to where he is now, financially, fame, getting to practice his craft despite being 125 pounds, soaking wet, as who Bobby Heenan would say or Jim Cornette would say about Kendall Windham. And so, actually, about Kendall Windham, I think Jim Cornette said he could tread water in a garden hose because Kendall was so thin. But I think when you say he didn't need it, I think Tony Khan felt, I need to give Darby a world title reign, and I wanted him to pack in 7 title defenses in 6 weeks or something crazy like that, so that he can not just be a novelty guy who'd only defended it twice. He's a novelty guy who defended it a ton and had an outside the box memorable because it's so different than any other title reign we've had and will probably ever have. And now he gets to say he's a former AEW world champ, and that elevates you into retirement, at autograph shows and all of that. I just think this and MJF, I've heard, is it like excited to work with Darby? I think that just everyone is rooting for Darby in this, is my point. And And so I just think it's a cool interlude that's filled some TV time. I was skeptical going in. I've not been a cheerleader or a booster for this from the very beginning. So yeah. Sean Pliss says, I really don't love the fact that Darby's claiming to be a company guy as well. Man, Sean. Anyway, so I'll stop. I mean, we've talked about that a lot. I made my point. Brandon, I will just throw to you for any final words. We're up against the clock a little bit here.
Yeah, all I would say is I was on these shows for a long time and did the AEW post shows for pay-per-views for a long time, and I've been a vocal critic of their product and how they've presented things for a good portion of that time. There's always things that I like. There's a lot that I don't like, but I would be remiss if I didn't say that this was a really positive in-person experience, and not just because it happened to be in Maine for the first time in all this time. It was just a fun night of wrestling, and everyone around me seemed to have a really good time. The vibe leaving the arena was really positive. People were doing the Will Ospreay chant. Like, it was just a really jovial crowd, and I think that the in-person experience for AEW is much more enjoyable than what I get out of their product on TV.
Interesting.
I think that coming out of this, I would be happier to attend an AEW show in 2026 than I would be a WWE show, even if I don't necessarily always think AEW is the better product.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, cool. Brandon, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Yep. Check out AEW New Year, says check out an AEW show near you, says Brandon. I can't say that. I'm done. Thanks, Brandon. All right. JB, check out JB's Impact Hits and Misses on PWTorch.
Misses. I'll do the Double Nothing primer as well. I'll try to get that done by sometime in the morning as well. For
you better. Yeah. No. no. Right. Good. We will. I don't like announcing things ahead of time, but there's something else next time you're on we'll be talking about too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm excited about that. Yeah. Cool. I know we have a super chat from Derek that I promised to get to, and also said I might not, and it would not be my fault if I didn't. I wanted it both ways. Derek says with a super chat, Derek, thank you so much for the super chat. Seriously. I've noticed there isn't much diversity in AW crowds. It makes me wonder if AW has concerns about connecting with broader demographics and those outside their core group. I was thinking of reading this to Brandon, but I don't want him to have to account for, Portland, Maine. I think, Derek is saying something broader here. I don't know what to say to that, because AEW is about as representative as any modern wrestling. And WWE, by the way, as Paul Levesque said, and I defended him when it came to this, even when Derek would bring it up. WWE was very white. And then, some Asian women, but it was like, whatever. And that's oversimplifying it, but my point. And he was like, he's had that stupid, don't say I don't see color. Like, Colbert made fun of that 20 years ago for how stupid it is when he was role-playing a conservative dork on TV. Not that all conservatives are dorks, but his goal is to, say absurd talking points and seem out of touch and all that. But he stepped in when he said that. But he did say, if I remember right, we got a pipeline. It's just sometimes there's an ebb, sometimes there's a flow. Sometimes an NBA draft has 4 point guards in the top 6. Sometimes it's 3 centers and 2 small forwards. You don't know what you can, whatever. It wasn't clearly, to me, obviously by design or due to negligence. I think they have been aggressively recruiting and developing a whole wide array of talent, and now it's made its way to the main roster. So WWE is better than they have been, but AEW is pretty good too, JB. And by the way, you don't want to say something like Triple H, where the only reason black people go to wrestling shows is if there's black people on the show. Yes. Also, I want to be clear, I'm cognizant of what I'm saying, but there is something for sure where there's going to be people who are going to look at a show and be like, I don't see somebody who looks like me. I think it's suspiciously white. I'm going to look around for, pro wrestling does not have a proud history when it comes to this. So I get it that people would feel that way. But also, I mean, I don't think that's the reason people aren't going to AEW right now. So what is it, do you think, JB? Well, you can comment anything I said, but Derek's specific question, are they having trouble connecting to a broader demographic outside their core group? Maybe that just goes to the ongoing issue with AEW in general, that it feels like a clubhouse of people who have secret handshakes and hardcore sicko knowledge of Tokyo Dome stuff and PWG stuff and, you know, whatever, and ROH history and all that. And they don't do a lot to like feel like we're rolling out a welcome mat for you.
Yeah, I mean, a lot to take in there. But I mean, I want to defend AEW to a certain extent as well. A few weeks ago, they had, you know, over 5,000 people to one of their Dynamites, which was one of the better shows they did in a while. And I think the pay-per-view this Sunday is over 14,000 in New York. So I mean, that's a pretty darn good show. So, you know, I don't think AEW is like even necessarily a cult product by any means. Now, obviously, there's certain markets that they don't do as well in. But I guess specifically speaking to demographics, I mean, I can't speak to that necessarily in the sense that I don't know what the demographic numbers or poll would be for an AEW crowd or even an AEW audience. I would have to do kind of a greater analysis of that. But from the way they represent themselves as a company, I mean, it's a pretty big mix. Like you said, even some of the people they have on the rise, Takeshita, you know, Japanese, Kevin Knight, they're definitely putting a lot behind Kevin Knight, obviously African-American. Willow Nightingale, obviously they put something behind her. Mercedes, obviously just a big star in general that they brought over. And then that's not including all the luchadors they have, all the Japanese talent they have. I mean, they do a pay-per-view called Forbidden Door, you know, for God's sakes. So I don't think it's by a lack of effort. Now, it might just be the case that happens. And obviously there'd have to be probably greater study done by that. And it could be a factor of, you know, what attracts, you know, what, but like obviously you said, like today, you can't really judge. Like Portland, Maine, it's going to be obviously probably a more white demographic just by nature of the, you know, demographics of the city in and of itself. Yeah. But I mean, that's all I'd say about that. I don't think AEW is doing anything wrong necessarily, and it's anecdotal to a certain extent because I just don't know. I'd have to do more research, and obviously, Wade, you're more in contact on that. But that's just my opinion of the matter. So
yeah, Sadler in the chat says, for what it's worth, I went to one AEW show and one WWE show last year. And the WWE one was more diverse. I don't know how much I blame AEW for that, though. They do have a diverse roster. So you're talking about the roster, not the crowd. Yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes it's just who's healthy, who's around. Yeah, I think both companies are in a decent spot, just kind of demographic percentage ratio wise.
By nature and by human nature, in a bigger crowd, you're going to notice greater diversity as well. That's just, you know, you're going to see more people, and when there's more people, there's more likely to be people of different, you know, races, ethnicities, gender, things of that nature. So, yeah.
All right, cool. We'll wrap up there. Thank you, everybody. Go VIP in time to catch our post pay-per-view roundtable. We've been doing VIP exclusive roundtables that I've hosted for over 2 decades now. Well over 2 decades. Well over? Yeah, I'll say well over. Like 2003, I think we started. And you get access with a full VIP membership to that library. pwtorch.com/govip. Customizable podcast feed for podcast apps. No password or advanced settings to sign up. Just single click. When you sign up, you get an email. You click it. Launches the Apple Podcast app. We have, and you're just in. It's a really cool setup. It's very frictionless. Also, ad-free website, ad-free versions of our free podcasts. Ad-free mobile site, desktop site, customizable podcast feed, as I mentioned, so you can subscribe to individual shows that are your favorites on the VIP podcast lineup or clusters of shows based on theme. All kinds of great stuff when you go VIP exclusive podcasts and articles every week. My cover story in this week's Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter is on the return of Brock Lesnar. Check that out if you haven't yet, if you're a VIP member, and sign up to get it. Too much to talk about to really cover everything that comes with VIP membership, but hope if you like what we do here and you haven't yet, you will support us with a VIP membership. pwtorch.com/govip. Thanks to JB as always, and thanks to everybody else. And we'll talk to you Friday night after SmackDown. We might do a AEW pay-per-view preview show on the Blue Logo show, so hit refresh Friday or Saturday for that. And we'll talk to you all next time. Thanks so much.